Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
I've wanted Mike Vrabel to be the successor to Bill Belichick for a while. So, man, you're clinging. Yeah, I'm a little clinging.
Are we on? All right, welcome to Patriots Unfiltered special
It's a new era.
emergency podcast. Mike Vrabel's in the house. 12 o'clock press conference to announce him as the 17th or 16th head coach of the New England Patriots. 16th head coach of the New England Patriots, Mike Vrabel. So we're all excited. We decided we have to do a show today. So we will be live until the press conference. We'll break here at about 11:55, and the three of us will hustle up to the press conference. Then as soon as the press conference is over, we'll hustle back down, and we'll do a show after the press conference to get your reaction to everything that's happened today. So, you know, it's Paul, it's Mike. What are we feeling? How do we feel, guys?
I feel the same way I did last week. I love Mike Vrabel. I think he's going to be a fine choice for the coach, and I'm looking forward to getting my balls busted by Mike Vrabel.
Sure.
'Cause that's what he does.
I'm looking forward to him busting your balls. Maybe I'll be lucky enough he busted mine, but I brought a little prop today, guys. I had to do it. Here it is.
What's this?
Some people, you know, they talk the talk, but I walk the walk. This is it. I went out. My kid was little. We put him in a little Vrabel jersey, so I've always loved Mike Vrabel.
Wow.
We hung on to this special keepsake.
So do you throw anything away?
Yeah.
I know this one. No, well, I'm glad I did now. I tried to get into it this morning, Paul. It wasn't that easy.
So you know what you
That
should
would have
do?
been funny. You show up wearing that.
You can't do it. I was going to say you should have him sign it, but we get in
Nah, it's
trouble.
a little-
We get in trouble for things like that, so we probably
it's a little
shouldn't do
chewed up.
that.
But no, I'd echo what Paul said. And I mean, looking back through my blogging days, Fred, I looked and I found the exact day. It was in 2015 that I first said, you know, I love Mike Vrabel. I think he'd be a great, you know, guy to follow up Bill. So I just feel refreshed today. I feel like we've kind of put last season. It feels like it's been 8 days. It feels like it was a year ago at this point. I'm excited to forget about that season, and I think, you know, this is what the team needs. They need somebody to come in and, you know, right the ship, get everything back on track. And I mean, not just talking about last year, but going back a couple years when it just felt like things were falling apart. We couldn't put it all together. A lot of mistakes on the field. A lot of those, you know, Paul, we always talked about them winning close games. Like, that stuff was out the window. They, you know, were self-inflicted wounds here and there through the last couple seasons. So I'm just excited for a breath of fresh air and to see what Mike Vrabel's going to come in and do.
Yeah, I mean, as far as setting the tone and setting things up and so on, he's done it before. He knows what he wants to do. He's going to hit the ground running in terms of those things. Now, he still needs to hire an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator and get his staff together. But I got a feeling he's got an idea about what he wants to do with that, too.
I have a feeling when we come back to do the show after
It'll
the
already
press conference, we're going to have a lot more information.
Yeah.
And, you know, along those lines.
Yeah, I
maybe
mean-
not everything, but more information.
Yeah. A lot of people are just assuming that Josh McDaniels is going to be the OC. I don't know if that's true or not. How do you feel about that?
It could be. I'd feel very similar. I like Vrabel, I think, more as a head coach than I do McDaniels as an offensive coordinator, but I like Josh a lot, too. I look forward to the same thing with Josh because I think Mike and I have a pretty good relationship with him. And I think he has demonstrated the ability to run an offense. I don't think it's been anywhere near as good without Brady, but who would be? Yeah. You know, who would be anywhere near as good? You know, I was looking up something for a mailbag today. We had someone comparing Ben Johnson and Adam Gase. You know, because Adam Gase had great success as an offensive coordinator. Yes, in 2013 with Peyton Manning when they set a record. I have a feeling that was a little bit more to do with Peyton Manning than it was Adam Gase. And then Adam Gase went to Chicago and had, like, the 18th ranked offense with the Bears.
Well, I think that's why.
That's what happens. When you have a great Hall of Fame quarterback, he lifts your offense to great heights.
And I think that's why Ben Johnson is getting so much acclaim across the league, is he's doing it with a reclamation project.
Yeah, Jared Goff.
Yeah,
it's much more impressive.
Yeah, so the question is, can Josh adapt and do what's best for Drake May and forget about Tom Brady? You know, literally, just forget about Tom Brady because no one's going to be him and no one can do what he did. But turning back to Mike Vrabel, because this is his day, he seems, you know, from what I've heard so far, you know, we've put some stuff up on social media already. He seems genuinely excited about being here. There was a rumor that Brady reached out to him and he says, don't bother. I'm going back to New England. So
that was reported yesterday by
that was reported, and so
the honchos.
So
Schefter
so it
and
doesn't sound like there was
Rappaport.
much hemming and hawing on his part. Like he really wanted to be here. They wanted him back here, and it happened. And listen, we heard rumors that this was going to happen. We were going to have a press conference this Monday, maybe. So I think internally in the organization they were playing. What's the soonest this could happen? Monday morning, and so they prepared for it, and it did happen. But the Crafts knew who they wanted. They got it done.
So that's the part that I would say that I like is regardless of what you think of the choice.
Yeah.
And reasonable minds can disagree, but I like the idea that they identified something and they were able to execute it. They went after it. I think we can all talk about sort of the pluses
process.
and minuses of the process. A thorough search. I personally would have rather have had them talk to more guys and come back. And if it lands on Vrabel, it lands on Vrabel. No problem there. But again, reasonable minds can have different opinions. They identified Vrabel, and they not only identified it, but they executed it. Bang.
Yeah.
They went after it, they got it, and they did it quickly and effectively. I think that's really encouraging if you're a Patriot fan.
And if some of the kind of reporting is correct, a month before the season ended, it sounded like they were already, what if we have to make a change? And I don't know how they would have been doing it, but they were kind of maybe getting out, looking around to see if we had to make a change, who would it be?
Yeah.
And sometimes,
just so obvious.
Yeah,
I mean,
sometimes, the quickest route is sometimes the best. Maybe is Ben Johnson maybe his ceiling higher, or he could be the next, McVay, possibly. But you got this guy right there. You got a guy who you know the kind of organization that he's going to create, the culture he's going to create because he's done it before, and let's take the bird in the hand, and sometimes that's the best route, and so they did it, and so like Paul said, could they have talked to more people? Sure, but sometimes you just, when it's right in front of you, just do it.
Yeah, and
just do it.
Like I said, I like the fact that they didn't think it was important to do that, and they did it quickly, and they did it effectively.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing the talk to more people now come about with the offensive coordinator. And I mean, I echo what you said. If it is Josh McDaniels, great. We know him a little bit. I have confidence he could do the job. But I think this is the time to, maybe find those up-and-coming offensive coaches maybe that will bring a little bit of an edge to the offense.
Starting to talk myself into Tommy Reese a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be open to new names in that. And, nothing against Josh, but, I think the stability that Josh will provide is certainly appealing. I mean, we talk so much about in success, you're probably going to lose this guy quick. But, I just think at the end of the day, this was such an obvious choice. And, yes, last year it was kind of rushed and out of nowhere, and all of a sudden it's just Mayo and there's no real process. And I think that hung over this a little bit. But at the end of the day, this was the guy all along, right? I mean, it all lined up this year. I mean, I wish they'd done it last year, to be honest. But, now they've got the guy. He's been here. And I think I said it last week. Just what I love about Vrabel is, not a lot of people, but a lot of people who are successful with the dynasty talk about a lot about what it was and what they did and what the Patriot way was, and how he never talked about it. Like, he just did it. He went out in big games. He caught touchdowns. I saw the edit we put out, and it's like they're all Super Bowl highlights. There's sacks in the Super Bowl. There are touchdowns in the Super Bowl.
Big plays in big games.
Big plays in big games. That was what Mike Vrabel was. He's not somebody who's going to go around and tell you all about what the Patriot way is and why we're better than everybody else. He's just going to go out there and kick your ass. And that's the attitude that I love. I think it's a hard place for this organization. They needed to move on from Bill. They needed to kind of clear the slate. Really hard for Gerard to do that. I think Mike Vrabel can do it.
Yeah.
He's got a program.
And one thing you can be sure of, beyond being judged by wins, which is what every head coach is judged by, Vrabel knows that he's going to be judged on how he develops Drake May. So this choice of an offensive coordinator, I'm sure, is going to be done with that in mind.
Yeah.
So if he has any doubt about Josh McDaniels doing that for Drake May, I'm sure he's going to look elsewhere. But if he does choose Josh McDaniels, I have faith that it's because he does believe that he's the right guy to help Drake May.
I think the great thing is last year when you were doing these offensive coordinator interviews, you thought maybe you would have Drake May, maybe you'd have Jaden Daniels. You didn't really know. You were interviewing guys, asking them what their process might be for different options that are on the roster. But now you have the guy. You know exactly who you're going to be developing. I think that helps matters. You know, he can say, I've looked at Drake's tape. This is what I would do. This is what I would do.
And Vrabel's success is tied to this OC decision, kind of.
A little bit.
Because if, 2 years from now we're still, middling, that's not going to be good enough. That's
No.
not going to be good enough. And Drake May hasn't, risen to the, levels that we think he's capable of. That's not going to be good. And Vrabel's smart. He knows that.
Yeah, I mean,
he knows that.
I'd much rather have that hanging over my head than I don't even know who my quarterback is at this point.
Yeah.
That.
Oh, yeah.
It's easier to go into it knowing that, but somebody's got to clean up the turnovers for Drake. I'd say that's the place to start with him. Is big key for next year is being safe with the ball.
Absolutely. Then you get to the defensive side of the ball, which is, to me, more of a mystery.
Crazy. I know, me
because
too.
it's not like, the defense was fine last year.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. That might have more cleaning up to do than anything, because on offense, to me, yes, the scheme is going to be important, who the OC, but they just need to get talent.
Yeah.
That's pretty apparent. That's one of the answers on offense is they need more talent. On defense, I don't know where they start. I really don't. Like, do they start with just bringing in veterans, or do they use the first draft pick on defense and kind of look past the offense? The defense to me is a little bit more complicated.
Me too.
Me
too. I mean, and that's everybody's got their 50 guys that could be the offensive coordinator. I haven't heard a lot of interesting options for defensive
Well,
coordinator.
that part I do think is more complicated. I don't have any idea who Mike wants as his defensive coordinator, but I think the problems are very similar.
Talent?
Talent and scheme.
Yeah.
Like, they need both.
Yeah.
On both sides of the ball. I don't know. I think we have an idea that Josh McDaniels is in the mix. There's been enough people that have been saying, don't be surprised if Josh McDaniels. Yeah. I think we think it's Josh McDaniels and maybe Tommy Rees from their time together in Cleveland. I don't have any idea who Mike wants on defense. Now, I'm not as concerned on that side because I think Mike will do a better job of being sort of head coach with a lean toward defense than Gerard did.
Yeah.
Like Bill did for years and years and years. I think that they'll.
Is that the way he was in Tennessee?
Like, I would be surprised. I don't know exactly how he delegated in Tennessee, Fred, to answer that question, but I would be surprised if they made a huge departure away from the way the Patriots used to play defense, with the sort of two gapping philosophies
that's
and
true.
whatnot. I'd be surprised if they just said, like Evan was talking about why he doesn't think Robert Saleh would be a good choice, because it's really a departure from a system standpoint to the way the Patriots have played in the past. And then the easy, rebut is, well, how do you know the way Mike Vrabel's going to play? My guess is that it'll be similar to the way the Patriots have played.
I went back and looked, did some digging just on his 1 year in Houston as the defensive coordinator, and just base 3-4. So I mean, kind of same route concepts that Bill used here. A lot of who's dropping, who's coming, a lot of disguise up front, but I do think the core principles are probably the same of what he'll be drawing out of. But the real question is, how complicated does it get with safeties and all that kind of stuff?
The reason for me, the defense is a little bit more ambiguous than offense. You have the quarterback on offense, so that's the thing that you're building around. I don't know what you're building around on defense, like
Christian Gonzalez.
Gonzalez, I guess, but it starts up front.
No, I understand. You're right.
Yeah,
but you do have a guy that is playing at a good level, a young guy that
But
that
offense, again, offense, if you don't have the quarterback, you better get one.
Yeah.
They've got the quarterback. On defense, it has to be more complementary, you know?
Because there isn't that one. Like, you can't say, well, if you don't have an edge rusher, then, or you don't have a corner. It's anything. You need a little bit of everything.
Right.
I'll tell you what I think of when I think of Vrabel's defenses in Tennessee is, I want to say, was it 19? That was the year that they beat the Patriots here. When that was Mike's introduction to
Brady's last
Loserville.
Brady's last game, right?
Right. Yeah. So the defensive game plan that the Titans put together in the divisional round the next week at Baltimore, that was a completely unstoppable offense that year, and Tennessee stopped it. they put up a bunch of yards, but they couldn't score. If you remember the way that game unfolded, they got a lead with Derrick Henry running, and Vrabel, just sort of contained Lamar Jackson. And maybe I'm wrong. I'm giving the credit to Vrabel for that, the way I used to give the credit to Bill, when they would come up with these sort of interesting, different kind of game plans to stop opponents. That's what I think of with Vrabel. I think that's where his expertise will lie.
Along those lines, I think you guys probably saw the Taylor Lewan video that he put out, which was really, really funny, talking about his guys.
I did. I
get ready.
it.
But I liked hearing about it. The jokes aside, were what we talked about with Bill, with him saying he's going to give you keys to the game and he's going to hammer those. And those are the things that are going to help you guys win games. I loved hearing that. I think that's where the trust from the players and the coaching staff and what an experienced coaching staff brings. And it's unfortunately something I don't think, Gerard had by the end of the season with his players. I don't think they, trusted that if we do what the coaches are telling us, we're going to win. But I think that message from Vrabel will really
and
be
he
bought.
certainly he may have gotten that from Bill. Maybe he got it from being at Ohio State when he was a college player. I don't know. I'm sure Bill isn't the only coach that does that.
Well, I mean, they all did.
Yeah.
And I know you always get mad at me, but this was a Parcells tenet.
Yeah.
You do these things, we can win.
Right.
And Bill, Belichick and Parcells.
He did.
For as much as
Little Bill took a lot from Big Bill.
For as much as they battled, but I also think Big Bill took a lot from Little Bill too. I just think they really complemented each other really well. I think Belichick's expertise was more with X's and O's, and Parcells was more with the relationships and the motivation and whatnot. But I think they believed in going about their business in a similar way.
Yeah,
and I think Vrabel falls from that tree.
The Parcells comparison.
The part about, Vrabel will stand you up and he'll say, who's this guy? Who's that guy?
Yeah.
He'll do everything from,
That's
the
very Bill.
person who takes care of, the janitor in the place. You better know everybody in the organization.
Right.
I like that because, come here and immerse yourself, get involved, get to know people, become part of the organization, not just like a mercenary.
Yeah.
I like that attitude. And that's something that Vrabel's going to bring here. So
I like how they all make fun of him for talking about his career.
Oh, yeah. And,
Yeah.
when the link that we sent around in the newsletter, I think it was Will Compton, did the Vrabel impression. And when he did that, guys just fell out because it's exactly what Vrabel does.
14 years in the league.
Well,
I know.
But he did. I've been in the league 43 years, and the guy's just like, just lost it. That was really funny.
Now it's going to be fun. I mean, I think there's just a level of entertainment from Vrabel, too, that just will spice up press conferences like these. Like, it's probably going to be some ribs thrown somewhere, I'm imagining, but I'm excited for that part. I think he brings a great edge, and I just think it's exactly what the New England Patriots need right now for where they are, and getting away from the last 20 years and all that, starting over, starting a new leaf, and something that everybody can really believe in. I've seen across the board, it seems like people are like, this is the right choice. This is the right choice for this team. So it feels good to have that kind of be the sentiment, other than
you get some
head-scratching.
Accountability. That's the word that everybody uses. With he's going to hold you accountable.
Yeah.
But it's so funny though to hear the people on the Twitter who hate the media. Oh, the media's going to get it now. They're not going to be able to get away with anything now.
Oh, boy.
Who's going to be the first person to get yelled at by Vrabel? It's like,
Who cares?
but they care, Paul.
No.
They care.
But what I'm saying, as a media guy, like that happens. Sometimes you're gonna get. Sometimes you're gonna ask a dumb question. You're gonna get that's part of the gig.
But there's like
that's part of the gig.
There's a whole cabal of people on Twitter just waiting for that.
Oh, I mean, I got to admit, I was thinking about it too. Like, if when I get an opportunity at some juncture to interview him, I feel like, know what you're asking. Don't be
Absolutely. Well, you should do that with whoever.
No, I know.
I don't care if it was Gerard Mayo. You should actually put some thought into your question. It shouldn't be like a chit chat. You should have a reason for asking the question.
Right.
I totally agree with that, and I've never ever changed my thought process going into an interview based on who I'm interviewing.
Right. Like
I was like, I need to be on my on my toes on
no matter who.
You should know what you're going to be asking.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm not saying, like, sometimes you walk through the locker room and you're like, oh, I didn't necessarily think I was going to talk to David Andrews today, but David Andrews is over there by himself. I know him. I'm going to go over and talk. I might not have questions.
That's different.
That's just a conversation. But if you're sitting down to interview somebody, you shouldn't take it more seriously if it's Bill Belichick than you would if it's Gerard Mayo.
Absolutely. And by the way, if you're in a press conference and someone asks the question you were going to ask, that doesn't mean you have to come up with a new question on the fly. You're done. You've got your answer. That you don't have to be heard from.
I'll just go with how about how was your breakfast?
Right. You don't have to be heard from every press conference. Yeah. Anyway.
Wow, Fred really took a turn
I
there.
touched a nerve.
We're getting down a rabbit hole here. But
So we're going to be going in about 5 minutes. So anything anybody would like to ask? I don't know how many people are actually listening
It's a lot
to
of
us.
pressure.
If there's something specific
Yeah.
that people are interested in, you got 5 minutes. Shoot Fred a quick email.
Love to hear about his last
Podcasts.
year.
yeah, so get your emails ready, get your calls ready.
Get your information ready when you come to 54's
After
locker.
the press conference, I think they're
wonder if he'll be here
I
today.
think they're going to go to lunch, the Crafts and Vrabel, but then he's going to go through the car wash here. We're going to have a photo session, and he's going to do a sit down, and media will get to talk to him one-on-one. I put the request in. I don't know if it's going to happen. Hopefully, he'll stop by the studio for 5 or 10 minutes.
Mike,
and we'll
this
get
could
him
be a
in.
big day.
We'll get him into our lair, where we can be a little bit more informal, but we'll see. But it's so once the press conference is over, we'll come back and start the show up again, and we'll keep going as long as we need to. There's really no set end time because we don't know exactly when we're going to get here. But we'll get to your calls and emails when we come back from the press conference, so it'll be all good, and we'll have a lot to talk about.
Yeah. Now, my guess is anything that you guys are interested in are probably going to get asked.
Yes.
As much as I like to, sort of poke fun at my fellow colleagues, generally at these kinds of press conferences, all the pertinent
It's
questions
exhaustive.
are asked.
Yeah.
All the pertinent questions are asked.
So
rattle.
we should think if we get to him and some anecdotes that happened when we were here, like, hey, you remember this or that?
Yeah. I don't
Why were you so
necessarily-
mean to Paul?
I don't necessarily need to go down that rabbit hole.
Did you ever have any like fun interactions with him?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun interactions with him.
Yeah.
I
So-
was always the butt of his jokes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't, it wasn't like he picked on me. He picked on everybody,
No, but
including Bill.
did he ever pick on you in particular? Like, no?
Yeah, I mean, he used to make fun, like, as an example, when we used to do a lot of TV, we would do like the, my shows.
Yeah.
After, so I would have TV clothes on in the locker room. And he'd be like, oh, NBC Sports Boston tonight. How about Comcast at the time? Comcast tonight, huh? Got the fall colors going, things like that, Just professional.
You got nothing to say back to him.
Professional ball buster.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing. That means
yeah.
he pays attention.
Yeah.
He pays attention to
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Like, that's just an example.
Yeah.
But, like, this was not because of me. This is what he did to everybody.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
As I said, including Bill.
Well, I tell the story when we were doing 3 Games to Glory 2. I had him, and I looked it up. I forgot who else. It was him, Deion Branch, and Givens. And we did a director's cut where they watched the game and commented on it while we were watching the game. And afterwards, after we shot it, I had Vrabel sat down and watched some of the other stuff because he was interested. And he sits down. He's like, why'd you do this edit? You should have done this. You should have done that. I'm like, okay. This guy, like, he's got opinions about everything. And that was good. Now, we were too far down the process to make changes, but some of the things that he said made sense, from a player standpoint. So maybe I'll remind him of that. That was 3 Games to Glory 2 after the Panthers win. So,
Yeah.
good stuff.
I watched
Very excited. So, Matt, I think we're going to wrap it up. The 3 of us are going to head up to the SI Pavilion where they're having the press conference. So we're going to have that live on Patriots.com as well. Watch that, and then there'll probably be some time in between the ending of that to when we get back down here. But we'll be back with a full show right after that.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
With FedEx One Rate, you can ship to your student for a simple, predictable flat rate. send a box full of home-baked treats that say, "Your father and I miss you." Or send a box full of instant noodles that says, "Your father and I would like you to stop asking us for money." Either way, one rate fits all. FedEx One Rate. 2-day shipping, one flat rate. Starting at $14.50. Visit fedex.com/one-rate for details. Exclusions apply.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like my plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get my plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get my plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
Well, welcome. We were gathered here today. We were gathered here 15 months ago at the Sports Illustrated Pavilion to welcome Mike as a new inductee into the Patriots Hall of Fame. And I'm really proud that 15 months later, we're back here today to invite him and his lovely wife, Jen, to announce as the new head coach of the New England Patriots. I'd like to ask Jen if she'd come up here for a moment. This is from our This is from our entire fan base here to tell you how excited we are about you both being here.
Thank you very much.
So, Mike's history with the NFL, it's sort of his experience is what embodies what's great about the NFL. He joined us in 2001 as an unheralded free agent, and he had never started a game. He had been in the league 4 years, and he joined us, and he became a starter those next 4 years, and we were privileged to win 3 Super Bowls in that time. And his impact, because of his work ethic and his competitive drive and his leadership skills, made it very special those 4 years. And those personal characteristics also made him a very high-performing coach, which he had started to do 7 years ago after being a linebacker coach at Ohio State for a year. He became a new coach at the Tennessee Titans for 6 years and finished with a winning record. I might remind everyone in this room in 2019, he beat us right here in the playoffs. It was Tommy's last game as a Patriot, and then he went on to Baltimore and beat the Ravens there, who were the #1 seed. And then in 2021, he finished with the best record in the AFC, 12-5, and it was the #1 team. In the interview process, Mike showed us that he had a very deep understanding of our current team. And most importantly, he had a clear and focused strategy of how to get us back to a championship way that is so important to all of us, but also something that I think our fan base really deserves and expects. So with that being said, it's my great honor to introduce you all to the next head coach of the New England Patriots, Mike Vrabel.
You guys could put your cameras down and clap a little bit. Some of you familiar faces that I remember from back in the day, but that's okay. Thank you, Robert. I'm humbled, I'm grateful. There's a lot of people that have helped me get to this point, and I want to thank them. I want to use this opportunity to thank them in front of you. You'll get to know some of them, most of them. And I want to thank my family. I want to thank Jen, who's been along for this ride for quite a while. Tyler and Carter, who grew up here, who spent time here. It probably wasn't the easiest thing to be my son as I was trying to figure this out and figure out the difference between being a dad and being a coach. So I love them dearly. You'll see them around, hopefully. Obviously, I want to thank my parents, thank Chuck and Elaine. And as I go through this interview process, I'm always quick to tell people that I'm an only child. And only children are spoiled, which I was. I was an only child of 2 educators. But my dad was a basketball coach and assistant football coach, and he taught me what it was to be tough, to work hard, and to embrace being part of a team and loving being part of a team and how powerful that can be. When you're an only child, those are probably hard things to understand, but I would tell you that those are things that I've built on, that I believe in, that I want to try to put as many people in this building and around our players that are like that. So I thank them. Obviously, I want to thank Robert and Jonathan and Daniel and the entire Kraft family. Not only for the time that I spent here as a player, but the experience a year and a half ago that Robert mentioned with the Hall of Fame, just the class that they showed myself, my family, my friends, the people that came. You know, I think one of the biggest groups I'd like to thank are the players that have impacted me along the way from Ohio State, that when I didn't know what I was doing, I had no idea. I just tried to figure it out as I went along. To the ones that I had in Houston, to the ones in Tennessee. Robert mentioned that we won 12 games in 2001. We played 91 players, and they all cared about the team immensely. They would do whatever it took for the team to win. And with that, the coaches that have impacted me along the way, my high school football coach, Jerry Reardon. I think I've had a great opportunity to play for, to coach with, and coach for some unbelievable mentors, people that have helped shape me, from John Cooper, Bill Cowher, John Mitchell, Romeo Crennel, Bill Belichick, the multiple coaches that were here, to Luke Fickell, to Urban Meyer, to Bill O'Brien, who held up his end of the bargain. When he asked me to come to the Houston Texans with him, he said, "I'm going to do everything I can to get you ready to be a head coach." He did that, and he's a great friend, and I'm going to support Billy every way I can up the road at Chestnut Hill. So, the assistant coaches that have, held me accountable, to leading a team. Sometimes when you're not right, or you need somebody to say, "Hey, there's another way." And I want to thank those coaches, because to be in this situation, you need so many people around you, and you put in place to help the players. I want to thank the teams that were willing to meet with me through this process to give me an opportunity to potentially lead their team. But in the end, it was clear to me and to my family and my soul that this was the place that I wanted to be. And I thank Robert, and I thank the Kraft family. Excited to get to work, excited to meet the people in this building that have made this place special. Find out what they need, find out how I can help them, how I can help them do their job better, how we can enhance the stuff that we do well, and then find out what the areas of focus are and get to work. I want to galvanize our football team. I want to galvanize this building. I want to galvanize our fans. And the most important thing are the players. There's some of them right here. I want to provide a program that provides their ownership, but also their accountability of each other, and one that they'll be proud to be a part of and that they're going to fight for. You guys are going to ask me questions about culture, which I'll be happy to talk about and discuss. One thing I've realized about culture is that you can find out what your culture looks like when your family, your business, or your team is at its low point. It's not when you're winning Super Bowls, or it's not when you're 7-1 or 10-1, because then everybody's waving towels and everybody's happy and they're excited to come to work. But when you get hit in the mouth, or you're down, or the chips are against you, then you can take a snapshot of what your company or your team looks like, and then you'll find out what kind of culture you have. But that culture is going to be built on winning, a competitive spirit throughout our roster, throughout our players, and throughout our coaches and our staff, and the ability to put the team first and care about somebody other than yourself. And I'm excited to do that. I'm excited to get to work. But everything and everyone in this building is going to understand and believe that their job is critically important for our success. And it's going to be, how can I help you in order to help the players? Our players will respect, and they will appreciate, and they will be grateful for the opportunity that they have here, and the people that work in this building. Some very familiar faces that I can't wait to reconnect and to work and figure out how we help these players and this football team. We're going to earn the right to be here every day. We're going to remove entitlement from our football team. We're going to get everything that we've earned from the head coach to the position coaches, all the way down to the players. And we're going to earn the right to be here every single day. You know, I always say that, you know, I don't want to get into too many messages that'll be geared for the players, you know, but I hold those conversations. You know, those are special conversations between the coaches and the players, but, you know, we want to treat every player the same way they treat the team, and we want to treat every employee the same way that they treat the team. And if they care about the team and they come here with a great attitude and a willingness to work and help the team, I've asked Robert to do everything that we can for them, to support them and their families. That's the type of environment that I want to build. And I'm excited about it. And with that, would love to answer any questions that you have.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, buddy.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
Just a thought on everything that you've said, kind of wrapped in your career as a player here. You said this was a special place. As a coach now, how would you describe what kind of players you want to wear a Patriot uniform to help you win as an organization?
Elliot's going to laugh. I'm going to say good ones. That's just an inside joke between him and I already just over the weekend and through the interview process. But, you know, we're going to ask our players to just do a few things. One is to put the team first, to know what to do, and play fast and aggressive. So that's the vision for the type of player. Winners come in all shapes and sizes. Right? We're going to have leaders. Leaders are going to identify themselves. I know that our staff and our ability to create winners and competitors are probably easier than it is to create leaders. And the leaders are going to identify themselves. The leaders are going to ones that define the culture. The culture will be the, you know, what drives and gives you the results that we're all, you know, after. So the type of player, you know, when you get into scouting and evaluation, every team has a height, weight, speed, right? And then it's our job to, you know, take analytical data and watch the tape and just figure out where they fit best for us. And maybe they're the best ones and the right ones. That would be wonderful. But it's a long process, and those are the things that we're going to ask the players to do, is put the team first, know what to do, and play fast and aggressive and play with some speed.
Mike, congratulations.
Thank you.
You lived through the collaborative process, especially at the end in Tennessee. I'm curious how you view that, and do you have roster control over the draft here with the Patriots?
Well, I think the most important thing is that there's a shared organizational vision for what we want to do and how we want to work and how we want to acquire players. There's numerous ways to acquire players through free agency, trade, draft, post-draft process, after training camp. So again, I'm just excited to get to sit down with Elliot and his staff. I've met more with Elliot over the weekend than I have had conversations with him. But I need to sit down with his staff and figure out where we're at, what we need to do. And I'm confident that those types of decisions are all going to, you know, sort themselves out. That we don't want to always be on the same page. Like, that's not the environment that we want to create, but we want to have a shared vision, and there's also different ways to get there. And I'm embracing that everybody's going to have a different personality. I don't want my staff to be like me. I don't want all our players to be similar. You know, we're going to have diverse ideas, and that's critical. And to be able to have those types of conversations is something that I'm looking forward to.
Hey, Mike.
Hi, Tommy.
What is your plan for offensive and defensive coordinators? Is that solidified already? And if not, what's the process?
No, that's far from solidified. You know, we want to put the best talented coaches in front of our players. When they stand in front of these players, I want the players to embrace what every coach is teaching. And I will tell you this, as long as I'm the head coach here, our coaches will have 3 simple jobs. And they sound simple, and they're probably not as simple as we want to make them be. But they want to teach, they want to develop, and they want to inspire our players by making a connection. We're going to make strong connections with our players. so that we can coach them and we can push them. And I've really believed in this system, and I believe in having great teachers, great developers, and also coaches that will inspire our men by making a connection so that they know exactly what makes them tick. Like, we all have stuff outside of here. Every single coach, every single player, every single person in our building is going to have something outside of football with their family, mentally, physically. They're all going to deal with something. It's going to look different, and it's going to smell different, but it's something. And we got to deal with it, and we got to, when they come in the building, do everything that we can to help them do their jobs. And I do feel the shared experiences that I've had as a player, one that, as Robert mentioned, didn't start a game for 4 years and made the roster because of special teams and occasionally playing on third down and backing up and being a backup at more than one position, to a free agent that took an opportunity to come here and started for the next 10 years of his career, to being a veteran player who was expected to produce at a high level, to one that, as he got older, was traded to another team that then had to start over, had to act as a coach. So I feel like that every player that sits in that meeting room, I can at some point in my career relate to and have a conversation about.
Hi, Mike.
Hey.
Mike, what's your philosophy when it comes to developing a young quarterback, and how do you plan on helping Drake May reach his potential?
Yeah, put great people around him. We have to, I would say that my involvement will be as it relates to game management and situational awareness and where we are on the football field and trying to develop him as a leader of the offense. And when a quarterback, when they call the play, like, you want to say, like, everybody's going to believe that it's going to score a touchdown, like, with that type of emphasis on how everything is going to operate. And Drake is going to be his own person, but I'm going to give him some things that I feel like are necessary to help us win football games. We have to be a very efficient passing football team, right? And when you look at statistically of what wins in the National Football League, our ability to affect the other team's quarterback and our ability to provide for an efficient quarterback and passing game is a high contributor to success. And there's a lot of ways to do that, by protecting the middle of the pocket and, all those things that we're going to talk about as we move forward. But how we protect the football, how we're aggressive but not reckless, understanding where we are in the game and the situational awareness that I feel like I've developed over 6 years and then my past year in Cleveland. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the Cleveland Browns organization for the opportunity that they provided me last year with Jimmy and Dee Haslam, and then Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski and all those coaches and players that allowed me to spend some time with them last year.
Mike, welcome.
Hey.
It's been reported that you'd like to bring Ryan Cowden, who you have a relationship with, to New England here to help with the front office. Is that something you plan on doing, or is there somebody else that you might bring to the front office to help in that role?
Yeah, Elliot and I will have conversations, and as it relates to the staff, like, nothing has been finalized, nothing's been determined. As with any staff, there's going to be turnover, there's going to be new coaches and new faces, some that I will have history with and some that I won't. And that's what the interview process is, and that's what we're going to do, as Tom mentioned about with the coordinators, and being able to sit down with a bunch of coaches and be able to get the best and the right fit around our players.
Mike, right here. Congratulations.
Thanks.
I know when you were inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame, you said that this place is special. You've been to a lot of places. This one's special. What is it that makes it so special for you?
Well, I mean, the history of winning and the championships, and I would like to thank the teammates that I had here in the 8 years that I was here, and the teammates that I had in Pittsburgh. and the younger players in Kansas City that I learned stuff from. But that's what I mean, the people, the history, and not that the banners that hang in our stadium, they're not going to help us win, but I think it's a great reminder of what it takes to win and the type of people that you have to have in the organization, the selflessness, the work and the sacrifice that you have to make. So to me, those are great reminders of what it takes. Just because those banners hang, that's not going to give us an advantage on the field, but it's going to give us a blueprint on how hard we need to work and the things that we need to do to be successful. I'm surprised they didn't let you go first, Karen. They didn't let me. I would have let you go first.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Congratulations. I was wondering if you have yet had a conversation with Drake May, and also what your impressions were of his rookie season, watching from afar.
Karen, I'm smiling, Karen, because I know I look a lot older than I did when I played here, and Karen looks exactly the same way she did when she stood in front of me in the locker room. That's amazing, Karen.
Thank you.
Whatever you're on, I need some of that. I need it. Yes, I've had conversations with players on our team, and who that's been with. That I'm going to try to do through the next couple days, try to reach out to every player and the ones that are here rehabbing, and that come through here, and the ones that I'll call and talk and ask what I can do to help and where they're at in their off season, and how we move forward. Everybody got here and will get here through a different avenue, right? Maybe we drafted them, maybe we signed them as a free agent, maybe we will sign them as a free agent. But none of that will matter. None of that will matter how we got here. The only thing that's going to matter is what we do when we're here. And that's the most important thing that I can tell them, is that everybody, in my eyes, is starting over. And they will prove to us and to this team that their impact that they'll make. And we're going to give those players an opportunity. And whether that, we all have to be ready to take advantage of our opportunities. Some people get more opportunities, some people get less, but we're all guaranteed an opportunity, and will you take advantage of it when it comes?
Hi, Mike.
Hey.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
In the wake of your success at Tennessee, you referenced the experience you had last year at Cleveland. How did that help you evolve as a coach? How are you a different coach today than you were at the end of 23?
One, I realized that I missed it. With everything that I had in my soul, that I missed having the opportunity to lead, to help put a team together, a staff together, that I missed that. But I also embraced helping out the players and the younger players that allowed me more time to try to develop younger players that were on the practice squad, whether that be with the tight ends or the offensive line. I really enjoyed Kevin's idea of putting a defensive coach, or what would seem to be a defensive coach, with the offense. I'm sure if you ask people in Tennessee, they would think that I was probably the third or fourth offensive line coach, as much time as I spent in there. But I know how important it is to a football team and to an offense, and so really enjoyed getting to know those players and teaching them and helping the staff, helping the young coaches. It just reminded me of not forgetting, all the small little details, right, that are critical in coaching and teaching, to be able to work with young coaches and help them prepare, interview them, have mock interviews so that they could develop. I always tell them, no one had a worse first coaching interview than I did. And I think that's documented, but it was with Urban Meyer at Ohio State, and it was guaranteed to be the worst interview that anybody's ever had. And I got another opportunity 8 hours later, and I did a little better the second time. So I was able to work with the young coaches and really just get back to focusing on teaching and developing and what their style can be. And then the players of, the fundamentals that are critical. Like we're going to play with detail, we're going to play with technique, we're going to play with fundamentals. There's going to be a brand of football that everybody associated with our team or our fans is going to be proud of.
Hi, Mike. Welcome home.
Oh, hey.
Thanks for taking questions. You got the number 4 draft pick. You've got some cap space. I assume Mr. Kraft has told you the checkbook is open. What are some of the top priorities going forward for you to fill some holes on this team?
Well, I think that player acquisition, I think you look at what's available in free agency and what you can feel like you can sign and then see where you come out of that. But certainly you look at the teams that are able to, protect the quarterback and dictate the flow of the game offensively, making sure that up front we're sound, we're strong, whether that's through free agency or through the draft. And that's something that's critical. The D linemen are just, they're getting better every year. They're getting more disruptive. They're getting bigger. They're getting more powerful. And so as they try to affect our quarterback, right, we have to have some things that counterbalance that. And obviously personnel is the first way. And then scheme and style and tempo and cadence and all those things that if our players can handle it, then we'll shift, we'll motion, we'll go with different cadences, we'll go on the ball and, try to do all those things that cause conflict, but it's going to not be at the expense of the players. And if the players can only handle a certain amount, then that's what we're going to do and we're going to get really good at it. So we're going to try to just, focus on players that, again, we feel like fit us, fit into what we're doing, that are willing to commit to the team, and then also, try to find players that will hold each other accountable. And we have to get to know each other. We have to get, we got to peel some layers back so that you can hold each other accountable, right? Because if you don't trust the guy next to you, you don't believe in him, or you don't know anything about his family or how he was raised, when you hold him accountable, then there's pushback, right? And so what we're hoping to build is an environment that everyone respects everyone else, that we take time to talk and ask and listen. When somebody asks you a question, that you sit there and you take time to answer and listen to them. It's important, and not just have a bunch of flybys in the hallway and be like, yo, how you doing? And then keep it moving. That, hey, how you come out of that game, You're a little banged up, how you feeling? But that takes time. Those relationships take time, and I'm excited to start building them.
Hey, Mike, welcome back.
Hey.
Understanding there will probably be a significant amount of overlap, how will your program here differ from the program you played in and then obviously coached against later when Bill was still here?
Yeah, it's going to be all different players, new coaches, some coaches that have remained, and people remember that. Like, there are going to be some things. Like, I'm not Bill, and I'm not Bill Cowher. I'm not anyone other than me, and I've taken those experiences and I've tried to form what I believe is critical to the success of a football team and an organization. But to say what those are going to look like, hopefully just as successful. And our goals will be to win the AFC East, to host home playoff games, and to compete for championships. That's what it's going to take. And what the timeline is, just like we say with injuries, we're not going to put a timeline on an injury, and we're certainly not going to put a timeline on what those will be. But that's going to be the expectations, and we're going to work like crazy, and we're going to compete like crazy. We're going to give the players a plan, and they're going to form an identity on the field and the way that we're going to play and play for each other that they're going to be proud of. And we're not going to, we just want to be good enough to take advantage of bad football. That's where we're going to start. And that's what I've tried to tell all the players is right now, I don't know if we're good enough to take advantage of bad football. I'm not sure. We're undefeated right now, but if we can just work towards taking advantage of bad football and being good enough to when somebody makes a mistake, capitalizing on it, and not being the ones that make the mistakes, and focusing on the little things and the details and helping them do their job better, that's a great place to start.
Welcome back, Mike.
Hey, buddy.
You don't look much different.
Yes, I do.
You mentioned you're not Bill. You had a special and unique
relationship with him. What does it mean to you, if anything, to follow in his footsteps in this organization?
Well, I mean, I think it is unique, obviously. Like, let's just be real for a minute and just say, you know, having played for him and, you know, having competing against him, and then also having a friendship with Bill, right, along the way. You know, I think it's special, it's unique having played here, knowing Bill, but again, like, we have to focus on things that are going to help us win now, help our players, and like I said, galvanize the building and the team and our fan base. So I think that there's also things I'm going to try to explain to the players, that there's things that are interesting and there are things that are important. I think me having played for Bill is interesting. I just don't know if it's important to helping our players.
Mike, welcome and congratulations. Hey. You were the hottest name on the coaching cycle this time around. Presumably you had your pick of jobs. So personally, professionally, what really separated this choice among the others?
Well, I think that the ability to have open dialogue with Robert and Jonathan was something that was critical. Elliott and his staff, obviously, what I believe and what everybody else believes is a young, dynamic quarterback. We have some youth on the roster. We have some veteran players that have kind of seen both sides of it and understand, and that will help me and will help our players, you know, get back to that success and understand how hard it is. I do think that we're getting a different style of player, a different player to the NFL. You know, one that, you know, sometimes guys played 4 or 5 years in college in the same place under the same coach, and we don't have a whole lot of behavior to change when they got to our league. And I think now with the NIL system that everyone is embracing and I'm all in favor of, but sometimes those players are at a school for 6 months and they may go to another school and with another leadership style and another structure. And so when they get to our league, there's some behavior that may have to change, and we have to be willing to help them change it. And that's okay. Like, this is not an indictment on the college football system. This is just, you know, you could go back and get a player from Alabama or Ohio State or Notre Dame where they had been there for 4 or 5 years. Maybe they redshirted, and there was a consistent program, and you felt comfortable adding that player. Now, you know, it's like hard to keep track of where they went to school. And so that's not easy, but we're willing to help those players that need to have some of those things changed and the commitment to the team, like we're willing to do that.
Hey, Mike, back middle here.
Hey.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Looking forward to all our future news conferences together.
There's going to be more?
I think so. I think the league makes you do a few of them. I hear they're fun, too. Just curious, one thing you've learned in your first experience from being a head coach that you want to make sure you apply to your second time around?
Oh, I mean, I think there's so much. I think just this connection piece, man, getting to know these players. And we're going to put so many points of contact around our players that I understand that I'm going to have a different relationship with some players than I do others. Right? I'm going to have a relationship with every single one of them. But then there's going to be other ones that may not be as strong, but they're going to be with the position coach. And, you know, we're not going to have a whole lot of rules. We're going to start with being on time and being respectful, and being able to communicate like anybody else would outside this building. If you were late for an appointment, if you had something going on, that we're going to have people that are around the players for them to be able to trust and say, hey, I've got this going on. And I've tried to do this in Tennessee, that if somebody walks in the door at 7:45 and they just, you know, there's something on their face that they're wearing something, they're holding on to something, that something's not right, I would rather give that player 30 minutes or 45 minutes, however much amount of time that he needs to take care of a situation, than the 7 hours that he's going to waste wearing it through the day. And I want to provide as many points of contact with the players so that they feel comfortable. And if that's coming to me, great. If that's coming to Elliott, great. If that's coming to our strength coach or that's coming to our position coach, whoever that may be. I want them to have as many relationships in the building that they feel comfortable saying that, you know, something's not right, or I need to communicate, or I'm going to be 15 minutes late, whatever it is. So I think that that's critical, that we teach them some of those things, that, you know, there's more people that they impact than just themselves.
Mike, congratulations.
Thank you.
You said at the beginning of the press conference, you knew in your soul this was the place to be. Did you ever envision yourself or dream about this moment here when you were a player, or even when you came back for the Hall of Fame induction? Did you ever dream about standing up here as the head coach of the Patriots?
Yeah, I mean, I think, probably more so when I started my coaching career. Like, I think it was important for me to go somewhere else, to start another coaching journey. The opportunity at one point was probably presented itself to be here coaching, but I felt like it was important to forge my own path somewhere else. And if all those experiences led me back here at the right time and the right opportunity, then that was going to be what was meant to be. And so, but not coaching, not coaching the Tennessee Titans. That was never something that, took my time. But I think that when I started my coaching career, I said, man, let's go and let's see where we can go and take this and work with other people. And, if the time's right to go back, then there'll be right time.
Mike, congratulations.
Thanks, Mike.
How would you describe what type of offense you want to run, and how does that tie to the traits that you'll be looking for in a play caller?
Yeah, I think that the offense, again, we mentioned things like aggressive but not reckless, right? We have to be able to take chances. How do we create X plays without just, having to throw the ball down the field 50 yards and just sit there taking shots, right? The creativity, we want to be, I would say, versatile enough if the players can handle it, right? I want to, you look at zone scheme in the run game, being able to run, gap scheme to things that the defense may do. Be under center, be in the gun, but it's also important to understand, everybody has access to this and everybody has some experience with different types of offense, but it's what the players can get good at. How much can you reasonably do? You don't want to dabble in things and say, we're going to dabble in RPOs when the quarterback, that's not a strength of his. And then being able to read and pull the ball and throw. I mean, there's so much nickel pressure, right? How do you want to handle nickel pressure, right? All these answers and different things that defenses are doing, more split safety defenses, more simulated pressures, more disguised cover two, right? And then, being able to go on the ball and try to be able to use an offense that goes on the ball at times and dictates tempo, cadence. But again, it'll be based on what the players can understand and what they can handle. And we're not going to, put things that make them slow, right? That somebody told me a long time ago, you can't tell the difference between a player that's afraid to do it or doesn't know how to do it, right? And so they kind of just stand there with that look, and we're not going to stand. We're going to be moving. We're going to demand effort and finish. Like people ask what non-negotiables are. Our effort and our finish is going to be the contract that we make with our teammates. And that'll be something that'll be my job to make sure. That's the greatest compliment that you could ever give a coach, by the way. Not that he has great plays or great blitz. It's, man, your players play their ass off. And trust me, when somebody that's a respected coach tells you that, you'll thank the players and you'll care about them and you'll do whatever you can for them, because that's the greatest compliment that you could ever get. So, time to get to work. We good, Stace? Thank you.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
All right, well, we are back right from the Mike Vrabel press conference. We hustled down, Paul and I, from the Sports Illustrated Pavilion.
Fred made me run to the press conference.
Yeah.
My knee still hurts.
I thought we left early enough. We get up to the concourse, and then there's this caravan of golf carts. I'm like, oh, no, they're already on their way. So, yeah, we
were good. We got there at the beginning.
Yeah.
Thought we timed it perfectly.
We caught it all. I saw Vrabel give us a look as we walked down the stairs, though. He's like looking at it. He was. Who's late?
I'll take your word for it.
Who's late?
I'll take your word for it.
Based on what he said, if we had a good excuse, he probably would have given us a little extra time.
Well, he saw the look on the face. He needs a little time.
There he is on 98.5 right now. But so opening thoughts. I know we're going to get into what our listeners have to say and hear what their reaction. But initial reaction.
I think he's an experienced coach. It looked like he was in control. He knew what was going to be asked, and yeah, I mean, a little coach speak. I think that's to be expected of what we're going to do. But I think if you boil it down, a lot of the same messages of getting to know the players, empowering the players. But it just seems like an experienced guy who knows what the deal is and knows how to go about it.
Yeah, comfortable. I thought he was comfortable in the environment, which is to be expected. A guy with some experience. Thought it was a little low key. Thought it was a little sort of understated.
Yeah, compared to the last one?
Yeah. Now, I would say Mike and I were talking as we were walking back over, and I would say, I'll take this over last year. There were a lot of things that we were all immediately looking at each other like, why do we say this? Or why do we do that? Why are we talking about silos? I'll take this sort of button-down, like, football approach.
Yeah, get back to
any
business.
day. I mean, I would say Patriots fans, like, boring is good. Dull is, like we're getting to work. We have a lot of work to do.
Right.
And I thought Mike sort of conveyed that.
Yeah, I think in retrospect, last year felt a little bit like Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead, and a little bit of celebration that we're
too much
away from Bill now, and this felt back to business for me. A couple things that stood out. I thought he, stressed the importance of offensive line protection. Liked him mentioned in the pass game. I'm sure Evan liked that particular moment, but. I just think philosophically he said some of the right things.
I think he said something like you have to be dynamic in the passing game.
Yeah.
And he also called his efficient in the passing game.
Yeah.
He called his quarterback a young, dynamic quarterback.
Yeah.
That was the dynamic part.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. One of the things that excited him about the job that led him why he wanted this job.
Yep.
And that was one of the things he mentioned.
And it sounds like he's had pretty extensive conversations, at least over the weekend, with Elliott.
Yeah,
directly. I mean, I think that's, one point. It sounds like a lot of things are still in motion with this right now. It seems like, even we saw.
That's what I was most surprised.
Smattering of coaches were there, so we did see some of those people there. A couple players we saw. Joe Cardona,
David Andrews.
Yeah, that was another one. I thought I saw him. So it seems like they're still figuring it out, but it does sound like he's already been in contact with Elliott, and that. All signs are pointing to that being a relationship.
He's talked to a lot of players, he said already, too, including Drake May when he was asked specifically about that. The one thing I would say that I really got entirely wrong is I mentioned in our pre-show before the press conference, I thought we'd have a lot of answers to some of these questions. We didn't get any answers to any of those questions. And I don't think Mike was being coy. I think there are still a lot of things to be decided.
Even the Cowan question, he said nothing's been settled.
Yeah, the only thing I would take from it is what Mike said about he had several references to conversations with Elliott. My guess is Elliott's going to be part of this, at least in the short term. But we had no real direction, offensive or defensive coordinator, and no resolution in terms of Ryan Cowden.
Yeah.
So. Yep.
No.
But like Paul said, and I'm assuming if you're watching this, you watched the press conference. It was low key compared to last year. Last year was a lot more fanfare, a lot more fun. This is all right. We got work to do. I was here to do a job, and I've got a big one ahead of me. So let's get to work.
I think you just realize too how unique this day is, and this isn't really a day about football. This is kind of a pomp and circumstance kind of let's introduce him. Maybe we would have liked to get some more answers than we got, but generally this is just, this is such a unique part of the year when it's like, all right, let's get to work, down to business. Then we're going to get into press conferences, and, that's when it really starts to, you start to really understand him. But I just, Impressed as always. You know the guy was experienced. Thought it was good about talking about Cleveland, which, I think the inference when we were talking about that was like, well, Mike knew he didn't know offense and needed to go there. And from his sounding, it sounded more like Kevin Stefanski kind of thought putting a defensive coach on the offensive side of the ball for a different perspective. So
I agree, Mike.
That was a good little
As a
nugget
total
there.
aside, do you feel like Kevin Stefanski is held in much higher regard within his peers and around the league than he is probably in the fans, by fans?
I would think so. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people think very highly of Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah. And I think they know the situation that he's been thrust
Yeah.
into. He didn't sign that quarterback.
Anyway, and more aside, breaking news, I guess, it looks like the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy are going to part ways.
Oh, I did
He
not
will not
see
be
that.
he will not be signing an extension. I think Schefter had it.
Well, Florio had a story today. I don't know if you saw it.
I did not.
About one Bill Belichick and how people at UNC are starting to get a little nervous.
Because he hasn't filled out his staff.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick to Dallas.
He's like,
Book
no,
it.
this is the staff.
Book it.
This is it. These 6 guys.
I did think it was a little interesting. Somebody brought up Bill Belichick at the press conference. I forget exactly what did you learn or what did you take from him. And while Vrabel, didn't completely dismiss it, he turned the focus of the answer more to let's look ahead. He said it's not important to the players that I played for Bill Belichick. It might be interesting, but it's not important.
Yeah. I mean, I don't tiptoe. I think he was measured with the way he responded to that, and rightly so. I mean, I think there is still an element too of respect for Gerard, and just it's also fresh still that I think going into this whole thing praising Bill I felt that would have been a little tone deaf. So I thought he handled that pretty well, but it's hard. The guy's the greatest coach of all time, and yeah, he's prickly, and people have complicated relationships with him, but I think everybody knows that what Bill Belichick taught Mike
Anyone
Vrabel
who
is a
coached
huge
under
part
him,
of it.
anyone who played
Yeah.
under him took something from him.
Yep.
There's no doubt about that.
Yep.
But Vrabel, he's his own man. He wants to make sure everyone knows that. He's his own guy. And
Yeah.
he talked about his team, and he says, I want my players to be their own. I don't want them all to be like me. I want them to all have their own things, and they will have all stuff going on off the field that if I know about those things and I take an interest in those things, will build that sort of accountability and trust amongst each other. And we heard that from other people before he got here. I think Taylor, that video that you were talking about, he mentioned that he'll work with you if you have something going on outside the game. He'll work with you as long as you communicate.
Well, and the other thing that always stood out to me, and I know that sometimes when we see these things in these viral clips, there's a reason we see them, but that shot after the game where the center was Ben Jones, I think.
Ben Jones,
who clearly played through something a little bit above and beyond what normal guys would play, normal bumps and bruises, and that reaction that Vrabel had to him after that game. I think that's the kind of connection he tries to establish with his players.
Yeah, super emotional. I mean, you could feel it from Vrabel like that, and I think him talking today, you can kind of feel it's based on experience of working with guys and working with players and knowing the complicated bits that can come back. I think last year's press conference felt a little bit more in theory and how I'd like to do it, but I felt Vrabel's experience kind of shine through a lot of his answers, and he just doesn't. You can tell he doesn't feel pressure from the questions. He's used to it. I mean, I loved how he called Karen out and gave her a little compliment.
Everybody,
he's right.
Everybody
she should have
loves
been the
Karen.
first
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
She's been on this beat, I think, longer than almost anyone right now. A lot of the old people are gone.
We don't count?
Karen's been on this beat longer than us. No?
She was Bruins when I started here.
Well, she's been working in the...
Oh, definitely. I mean, she's had and I know I say this all the time, a storied career.
Yeah.
She is the best reporter in that room.
Yeah.
I say this to her. She gets mad at me. She's embarrassed, but she is. She isn't just the ultimate professional.
Yeah. I mean, I think she's been covering sports
for a long time.
Probably longer than most people in that room.
I would say so.
Yeah.
So many old Patriots have so much respect for her, like Ivan Fears, and I mean, you see how all the players, coaches, they love her.
Well, she has a great way about her. She goes about her business in such a, and she's not afraid to ask tough questions. It's not about sort of being positive all the time. It's being professional all the time. There's a difference.
She seems to have a genuine curiosity. Like that's, to me, you can tell some people are reading the tea leaves or what the story of the day is. And with Karen, I always feel like she's kind of doing her own thing and asking good questions, but it's not because she's following the wind of what everybody else is saying. It's what her perspective on the team is.
Yeah. So now my thing is I got to get Vrabel to be the keynoter at the coaches clinic in March.
Yeah, I got my nephew there, huh?
Yeah.
So he's all signed up.
Yeah. Tyler Perillo.
Yeah.
From Endicott.
Yeah.
Coming over.
Who's
all
coaching?
signed up.
He's
a
going to the
coach now?
coach. Well, he's the tight ends coach.
So you got the Perillo School of Time Management all squared away. He knows how to use his timeouts and everything.
It's an area that the head coach struggles in. Just to let you know.
Okay.
Just to let you
I
know.
got a feeling Paul's made that known to Tyler.
I got a little bit of a problem.
It was a packed room. All the seats were taken, standing room only behind, and most of the staff, the current staff, were standing up behind the seats. I think everybody was there as far as the support crew. I don't know about assistant coaches, but
yeah,
I saw a hand. We saw who did we see? We saw Mike Pellegrino, Tyler Hughes. You saw the assistant offensive line coach.
Oh yeah, Robert Kugler.
There you go.
Yeah.
Him too.
Elliot was there.
Elliot, I saw Matt Groh.
Yeah.
Saw a couple of other people in the personnel department. Saw Smitty.
Yeah.
Cam Williams, I saw.
Was there.
Yeah.
Patrick
Stewart was there. Yeah.
So yeah, I think there was a pretty good mix. I don't think there were as many, unless I mean, it's certainly possible. A lot of people were sitting down, and we were behind like the cameras. I didn't see a ton of players.
No.
Last year it seemed like there were more players around, but
Vrabel
there were a
still,
couple of guys that I didn't
guys.
know. I didn't recognize that and frankly, they could be players now. And I'm not in the locker room all the time, so I wasn't sure. They might be.
Yeah. So. All right.
Now we can start.
Yep. Podcast at patriots.com is the email address. The TPX hotline is 855-PATS-500. Evan's just getting here. Your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I talked a lot of football, which was good to hear, and obviously the focus on the trenches and offensive line. I thought that showed pretty good understanding of where things are at right now for the Patriots and what's going wrong. And I think the last thing that stood out to me was the question when he was asked what your role in Drake's development was going to be. He had an answer right away, and I thought he gave a great answer in terms of game management and situational awareness. We all know Drake's extremely talented. We all know that he's got all the ability in the world, but for them to win and lose football games here and get on the right side of things, he's got to learn that aspect of the game. And that felt very Brady to Bill to me, in terms of we're going to sit down, we're going to talk about, what we're going to do in certain situations and how we're going to handle games and how we're going to get it across the finish line and things like that. And I thought that was good to hear. That wasn't passing the buck to the offensive coordinator or whoever he ends up hiring. That was, this is going to be my role.
And I like what he said. Our first step is to be good enough to take advantage of bad football.
I love that. Yeah. I love that too. That was something I was thinking of as I was, just looking at the schedule and realizing I think the Patriots are going to play, I believe it's 7 or 8 of the top 10 picking teams this year. So 7 of the 8 bottom
worst
teams in the league.
You can
so you're going to play the worst teams in the league next year. So just be the best of the bad. Beat those teams that can't get out of their own way. I think it's a good first step. I think it's a good way to look at it.
Yep. What did you think about him talking about having an efficient passing game?
Yeah.
Does that resonate with you? Does that raise any flags with you?
Well, there's a difference between efficient and high volume, right? So I guess that depends on what your definition is of that. In Tennessee, they were, with Ryan Tannehill, an efficient passing game, but they just didn't pass a lot. So can you be efficient with 20, 25 attempts a game? And is that how he wants to play? I still wonder about that aspect. But hearing him talking about protecting the quarterback, affecting the quarterback on defense, that to me showed that he knows that this is about the passing game and building through the offense.
And then you look at just the weekend's games and the winning teams. I could have a counter argument to this, but the winning teams all threw the ball 25 times. I think Josh Allen had 26. I think Lamar Jackson had 21. I think Jalen Hurts had 24. The teams that won the games kind of ran the ball very effectively. And then, my argument would be, and therefore kept the opponent in the game for longer than they should have been, because I thought especially Baltimore and Buffalo completely dominated their games. but there's 3 minutes left in the third quarter, and Buffalo's up 13-7. The game wasn't competitive to that point.
No, it wasn't.
And they're only up 13-7. And Josh Allen does a couple of Josh Allen things, makes a couple of throws, and the game's over. But I think that you need to be really efficient if you're going to throw it that infrequently. And those teams were. I mean, they made, Lamar open the scoring with a great touchdown pass to Bateman. Great throw coming across the back line of the end zone. So I think there's an argument to be made both sides. Efficiency works in the passing game, not volume. But I would argue that it's kind of hard to put teams away that way.
You have to be sure of who your team is and how they're playing that day and how the game declares itself. All right, let's get to the phones. Let's get your reaction. TPX hotline, 855-PATS-500. Christian's been on the line for about an hour and a half. So what's up, Christian?
Hey, you guys. Well, just recovering from the wildfires here in L.A.
How are you doing personally? You okay?
Yeah, my mind's a little frayed out here. Everyone's just devastated emotionally. We were, I don't know. I mean, I know it's just prayers and blessings, but amongst all the damage of 5,300 homes, we live in the Palisades, and we were one of the houses on the edge of the fire that was spared. So we are trying to figure out ways to turn that blessing around onto other people.
Yeah.
But that's the stuff here. Football-wise, guys, I know you guys are very enamored with Vrabel, and I don't want to poo-poo it. I just want to say this: it just seems like we are still trying to hold on to the glory days, remnants of the dynasty, and even Vrabel himself said, getting back to winning ways. I don't want to go back to anything. I want to move forward to the new era of how to win in the modern game that's advancing faster than it seems like our philosophy is trying to adjust to it. I know, he's a defensive-minded, run-first guy. He had Derrick Henry. We don't. So I'm just a little bit, I'm wary. I'm not poo-pooing him. I love Mike Vrabel. I think he comes with a foundational knowledge of the game, with a full complement of team, how to build a team, organizational skills. But what I did not hear, and what I think, like you guys said, I don't really see a vision for the offense. I know, everybody wants to have an efficient passing game. What is his vision for today's offense? Not what we used to do, or how he used to do it, or how he did it with Tennessee with a Hall of Fame running back and a middling quarterback. What are we going to do to move forward? Do you guys have any ideas about Vrabel with moving forward into the new offensive philosophies that are out there? I wanted a tight pants guy.
Yeah, I mean, my idea is that he's smart enough to know what he doesn't know, to hire good people, like he said, and surround Drake May with the best people possible. He knows, he said it, he knows he's got a dynamic quarterback. To me, that means a guy who can do a lot of different things with his arm and his legs. And Vrabel's smart enough to know he's going to have an offense to take advantage of that. Yeah, he knows he doesn't have Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
So if he thinks he's going to do exactly what he did in Tennessee, then we got problems. Every team's going to be different. But I think he's smart enough to know that.
Can I ask you guys one question? What was his drafting record like with him and his? I know he didn't personally do the drafting, or maybe he did, but what was his drafting record with the picks that he made, or under his regime? How much success did he have with that, with wide receivers or anything of that nature? Do you guys know?
Pretty good. I mean, it's a little uneven, but A.J. Brown and Justin Simmons, I mean, they drafted some good players. They weren't all home runs. Harold Landry, another good draft pick they had.
Yeah, they started on a heater, I feel like, and then they kind of tempered off towards the end, which is what often happens. When
I'm sure there's stories there, because as we know, there was some division between him and personnel, and there was a battle for control that he ended up winning, and then eventually it might have cost him his job because of how he brushed people the wrong way there.
I'll tell you what cost him
and that's
his
what
job.
scares me, right? Like, did he make the decision to trade A.J. Brown? Like, who made that decision?
No,
he was against that.
He was against that.
Yeah, that was one of the beginnings of the end for him, I think.
Yeah, well, it caused a huge rift between he and John Robinson at the time, and it looked like he was winning that power struggle. But in retrospect, I think it ended up being detrimental to everybody because, number one, they tried to replace him with Traylon Burks, which didn't work because obviously one guy can play and one guy can't. So, you know, to Evan's point, they were on a heater a little bit in the draft and then not so much. And then I think when he came here for his Hall of Fame ceremony, that did not sit well with people in Tennessee.
No.
Yeah. And I think that led to his ouster.
Yeah. Thanks, Christian. I mean,
Can I ask you?
okay, go ahead. You
guys one
held
more
on for a
question?
long time. One more question.
It was over an hour.
Yeah. How many defensive-minded coaches have ever built really successful offenses in their regime?
Well, it depends what you define as really special. I mean, I think Houston was pretty good
You
offensively.
think Belichick had a good offense?
I think when Houston was when healthy, I think they have a pretty good offense, and that's. I'm trying to be modern. I'm not trying to go back to like 2007.
RA has a pretty good offense. He's a defensive-minded coach.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's who I was
That's a
going to
good
bring
one.
up. You know, I think the Texans currently, I think that's what you're talking
Yeah.
about with Bobby Slowick and C.J. Stroud are in a good spot. But all of his concerns, Christian, all your concerns about the offense are
Valid.
everything that we brought up last week when this was all being rumored to happen. And I think the one thing that he said today was we got to find out what our players can execute. You know, it'd be great for him to come up there and say, oh, we're going to be, you know, an outside zone-based scheme, or we're going to be a spread-based scheme, or whatever the case may be. But they might not have the horses to run that kind of offense. So he said he wants to be versatile, you know, and he wants to be creative offensively and be able to do a bunch of different things. But he brought up RPOs. Like, if our quarterback isn't good at RPOs, then we can't run RPOs.
I knew that was going to get Evan.
Right. So
when
like,
he said the gap,
Do you mean
the
Drake,
whole,
though? You mean Drake? Drake's okay
the
with
whole
RPOs.
gap and zone
I was sitting
thing.
there, I was like,
this is
Mike,
give me more, Mike. Give me more.
Nickel pressure like that was a good one. Yeah, but like that, we'll see. Like we'll see. We'll kind of figure out, I think, what kind of offense they want to build based off of their personnel moves, based off of their actions. You know, what exactly do they put together? Right now, they don't have an offense, so it's hard to say what they're going to be.
Right. He doesn't have a coordinator. He doesn't have an offense yet. So it's a little early for those detailed questions. And listen, even when he has them, he's not going to just give it all away. You know, he wants to have some element of surprise for the opponent. But again, I go back to football IQ. We know he's got it. He's demonstrated that as a player. He's demonstrated that as a coach. So he's. I think he knows you have to adapt, and you have to adapt around your personnel. So you know, right now it's roster building time. You know, we got to get this roster together. I would hope that before they get too into that, they do have an OC picked, so that OC can be part of that process. Because I think that's important.
Yeah, I feel like the next deadline is Mobile, right? Like you have to, you want to probably have your staff in place by the time the Senior Bowl and the Shrine and then the Combine obviously next month starts to roll, because that's when you're going to have the most opportunity to get to know these kids that are coming into the draft.
Yep. Let's go back to the TPX hotline. Patty's in Agawam. What's up, Patty?
What's up, guys? Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Matt, you want to turn that up a little? That's good. Thanks.
So my question is regarding the staff. Like, if he has his staff built up, can he just bring them in, or does he have to just bring in all the positional guys and interview for all the coordinators? And I'll take it off air, guys.
So that's a good question. I mean, in terms of hiring coordinators, what is that? What are the rules around that?
Rooney Rule. Yeah, so if you open up a search for offensive and defensive coordinator, special teams coordinator outside the building, so let's just say they're not retaining Alex Van Pelt and they're going to go in a different direction, then they have to adhere to a hiring process. So you got to go through the Rooney Rule, and you have to interview minority candidates and the whole thing. So it could be, that part of it could probably be a little bit longer than this part of it was in that respect.
Okay. Although Pep Hamilton and Byron Leftwich, maybe they doubled up. Maybe they already interviewed them as OCs. No?
I don't think that's something we should be joking about.
Oh. Well, Vrabel worked with Pep Hamilton at Texas, didn't he? At the Texans? Were they together there?
I don't believe so.
No? They didn't cross paths?
No. Pep Hamilton came in the regime after Bill O'Brien.
Okay.
David Culley.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's go to, who do we have? Ray in Atlanta. What's up, Ray?
Hey, how y'all guys doing today?
Okay.
Hey, I'm excited of the press conference. Definitely, I'm definitely in good spirits. I'm real positive and optimistic about Vrabel being our coach. I know, I have a feeling, matter of fact, I know that we going to be balling out next year. Ain't no way we have Vrabel and we're not going to ball out next year. Look at what he is. He's a great coach. Understand he's not Belichick. He's not this. He's not that. He's Vrabel. He's his own man, his own person, his own coach. And no one will ever be Belichick. That's even dumb comparing them to. He can only be himself, which is a great coach. And with his knowledge of the game, he's going to make sure that the offense and the defense is up to par and doing what they need to do. Beyond doing your job. Execute. So I take Coach Vrabel on face value. I know we're gonna be better than the 2 years prior. I know that for a fact, just on face value of who he is and what he has done as a coach, let alone as a player back in the days when I was watching. So I look forward to this. I know a lot of Patriot fans and media people, they're happy about this. This is a breath of fresh air, and like I said, we're going to be balling out next year. I guarantee it. I guarantee it, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. I don't have nothing to worry about. I just want to see how everything unfolds, the draft, the different players. We know that we have to mix modern with the ancient, meaning the old man's knowledge has to keep up with this young man's game. The new techniques, the not the pocket, but the passing, the running, everything is young now. So, the knowledge of the games 20 years and back, whoever was born, I was, but I'm also keeping an eye on the modern plays and schemes and techniques, and just how it's a new game. It's a new day, a new game for how to play this NFL football. And so, like I said, we're gonna be balling out. I trust them, and people just gonna have to wait and see. I know it's new and people are skeptical and whatever, but.
Oh, sorry about that. I hit the button. Sorry, but I get it. I mean, Ray believes that he's going to get these guys playing hard for him. He has typically, and that's the kind of player he wants. Is guys who just give it all out on the field and are accountable. But it is a good point. Game is evolving. It is changing, and Vrabel brought it up. The NIL guys come. They've been through maybe many. Systems, many coaches before they even get to the NFL. And, they're taking a little bit from all of that. And you got to understand who these guys are, get to know them. And it's a challenge. But I think he realizes that the game is evolving in terms of the types of players that you're getting from college. They come a lot with, very hefty bank accounts.
So different packaging than last year, but both coaches, I think, have stressed the need for now that you have to connect with these players. You have to know them on a personal level. Like he said, they're going to come into the facility with something on their mind that, you need to be able to understand that there are other things besides football. And, that's the message that I think, we do lob some grenades at Bill. And I think that's one of the things that, generally players felt like that, he didn't know those guys that well. And that's something that modern coaches need to do, make that connection with their players.
And he's going to try to make that connection, but make no mistake, he's going to be demanding.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm going to get to know you and I'm hearing you, but in return, I need you to go out there and give it all, and as Ray said, ball out for me.
Yeah.
Those are the types of players that are going to, be his favorite students.
It was kind of the point I made at the top. And there are certain, anybody who played in the league, I think has an innate respect from players, but to have played at that level and to have won multiple Super Bowls, and like I said, play both sides of the ball, to catch 10 touchdowns as an outside linebacker, and as Mike himself highlighted, a player who didn't start for 4 years and was kind of behind the scenes and was one of those middle 53 guys, and then became a superstar, and then went and was a veteran and a mentor. He's had a wide range of experiences, not only a player but as a coach too, and I think that just I don't know, as a player, you look to him and be like, man, what can't this guy do? He knows this game inside and out. He played both sides of the ball. He made big plays on both sides of the ball in the biggest moments. It's just, I think there's just an immediate huge amount of respect guys should have for Mike Vrabel.
So I just got word that head coach Mike Vrabel will be joining us. They're just getting something to eat right now. So when he does come, you being lowest on the totem pole, you can stay in the room, stand behind us or something.
Go over there. Don't look at him. Don't even look at him.
I want to introduce him to you because I want him to know that you think you can run the offense.
We have a ball. There's a ball knower in the room. Don't embarrass him.
I'm going to introduce you as our resident X and O savant.
Oh, good.
And I'm going to tell him that you think you can run the offense.
In all seriousness, do not do that.
Why?
Because he'll remember it and he'll bust his balls.
That's all right. But he'll remember it.
You don't want that.
Yes, we do.
I'm with you.
We want him to know us, Paul.
I'm with
we
you.
have things going on off.
He knows us.
Yeah, live radio.
But I want him to know Evan too.
Yeah. I want him to know me too, just not for that.
Yeah, but just so
smart.
So
because I know him.
He'll take that seat.
All good. Yeah.
So camera operators, so that you know that he'll sit where Evan is sitting, and Evan, you can, as long as you're not in front of a camera, you can stand next to Deuce or behind me or whatever.
In the corner, yeah.
Just crawl, just lean down right under there.
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
Yeah, it's okay.
All right, let's get to the phones while we wait for head coach Mike Vrabel. Damon's in Maryland. What's up, Damon?
How's it going?
Hey.
So, quick question. So I know the Pats had their eye on Vrabel for a while as the guy. They brought in Leftwich for the Rooney Rule, but I wanted to ask, I guess, potential complications for that, for the Patriots in the league, if you have a set guy that you're interested in, but you have to satisfy the rule, but the minority invites, so they don't seem like just a formality or a sham, either at the eighth head coach level or at the coordinator level. How does that kind of impact, the league going forward? If there's a set guy you have in mind, like a Ben Johnson going forward for a lot of teams, but you have to give legitimate interviews to minority candidates.
I mean, you saw it. You saw what happened this time. They knew they wanted Vrabel, but they had to satisfy the rule. Did they satisfy the spirit of the rule? Probably not. But they weren't the first team to have done that, to do those interviews just to satisfy the rule. It's
hard.
It's happened since the beginning of the Rooney Rule. The Rooney Rule probably needs to be tweaked, if not gotten rid of, but at least tweaked, because it's not fair to both sides.
It's well-intentioned, but it's hard to execute in practice, I think, because I think it's only natural that teams have an idea of their leading candidates. Anytime that you have a job opening, how often do you go into it and say, boy, I have absolutely no idea. It's not like real life. It's not applying for a job and you're one of 50 and Fred's looking at the resumes and somehow picks Mike. I don't know. How does that happen? No, nothing?
No.
Nothing?
Because of the
You're not playing today? We're not playing? No, but it's not like real life where you're just blindly interviewing 50 guys and then one guy stands out. You have an idea of who you want. I understand why it exists. I think you're right, Fred. I think it probably needs to be tweaked in some way or maybe even eliminated.
Maybe there's a better way to just expose owners to all potential coaches, regardless of skin color. But I'm sure there's a lot of coaches that are younger or, just aren't on teams that get all the notoriety that are probably like hidden gems that owners don't know about. Forget about, who they are, what they look like. Maybe there's a way to better expose these guys in the off season to teams. I don't know.
Yeah, they do have some
seminars,
conferences, seminars, things like that. But I think the hard part is with this situation is he was a hot commodity. And so you had multiple teams that were interested in interviewing Mike Vrabel. We found out today during the press conference that Mike McCarthy is not going to go back to the Cowboys. What happens if a team loses early in the playoffs that's expecting a deep run and they blow out their head coach, a playoff team does. So if you're the Patriots, if you don't move quickly on this situation, you're the belle of the ball right now, right? You have Drake May, you have $130 million in cap space, and overnight you can just become another job. Yeah. And so they moved quickly on their guy, and he's such a qualified candidate that I just have a real tough time being super angry about it because it's not like it gave the job to somebody that wasn't qualified.
And listen,
I totally agree.
I know that people said for like 2 weeks that this has been a done deal, but a new team on the block like the Cowboys or the Raiders, when they just fired their head coach last week. What if they came in at the last minute and just gave him the world and made him a deal that he just couldn't refuse for himself and his family? I got to admit, I was starting to get a little worried about that over the weekend.
Yeah.
And they were up against that. So you can't fault a team for knowing what they want to do and then going and doing it. And, in this case, it was Mike Vrabel. He's a good coach. He's familiar with the team. He's familiar with the area. It just made too much sense.
I kind of wonder about John Harbaugh when that process happened with the Ravens, because he was a special teams coordinator, right? Like how did that happen? That's kind of a unique leap, and that doesn't happen.
He spent
very
1 year, I think, that was kind of like to get to the head coach level as like a position coach, I think. I want to say wide receivers, but don't hold me to that. And I think Bill Belichick was instrumental in getting him that job because of his connection with, I think, Ozzie Newsome at the time.
Yeah.
With the Ravens, and that was his recommendation was a big part of that.
Thanks for the call, Damon. We'll go down to Arkansas. What's up, Jay? Jay?
Hey, guys. Hey, good afternoon, guys.
Hi.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
What's going on over there? You
On the land or something.
are you changing a tire? What are you doing?
Here, let me change my. All right, how's that?
That's much better.
There we go.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't do that. I didn't do that.
That's much better.
How's that? Perfect.
While Jay's getting to get his act together, we'll go to Delaware. Rodney, what's up, Rodney?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just calling because I was like, I was against the Mike Vrabel hire at first, but now just listening to his speech, I'm just happy that I think he's gonna get us back to like the physical football, and that's what I just want back to physical Patriot way of football. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Rodney thinks physicality is coming back to New England.
Smash mouth.
It's definitely going to
Listen,
be part of it.
I don't think the Patriots of even last year weren't physical. I think
I don't think they lack physical.
the effort was
They
there.
lack
Yeah, this is a talent thing. So let's be physical, but let's also be talented.
That's fair, but I think effort and finish were like the two things that he said are going to be non-negotiables among other things.
Yep.
And defensively, like that's a lot of defense is effort and finish. If you can get to a baseline of that defensively, then you can be like an above average defense simply just off of effort and finish and being prepared
and I do think he'll have
and
wrinkles, like Bill always did. Whereas the defense will look better than it probably is because they'll be able to limit the damage. One of the things that I bitched about all year was it seemed whenever they got off to a bad start defensively, they were going to have a bad game defensively because they weren't going to be able to adjust. I think Vrabel will be able to adjust.
Yep, absolutely. So we're in the process of waiting for head coach Mike Vrabel. From what I understand, they went to get a bite of
Now,
eat.
do you think he'll bring food for the show?
I think he should, right?
Maybe a little chicken parm?
Like, wouldn't that be,
let's not get greedy.
Because I think he needs to ingratiate himself with us, don't you think?
Well, I mean, if he wants to succeed, he should know where to start.
That's right. He needs
you get
our
the PU
support.
crew on your side.
Right.
Yeah.
Walks in with pizza time.
Pizza time?
It's like, hey, Paul.
Tell him about this
small
place. I don't know if you've heard of this place.
Gold Rush. It's like, oh, I've heard of it.
Yeah. Jay's back on the line in Arkansas. What's up, Jay?
Hey guys, sorry about the audio there. Hey, the caller, one or two before, you guys got to talking about the process, and that's just what I had a couple of comments on. I was just going to throw in, and I'd love to hear you guys just talk about the broader, impact of the local media there at some point in the off season. Maybe it's for a good slow day, who knows? But I just really didn't appreciate from the get-go. I think it was Albert Breer I heard first call this a sham process. And then, of course, it sort of catches some steam, and other people use that word. I'm with you guys. It's like, what do you expect them to do? How many interview processes, in the rest of the world, do you not already have a little bit of an idea who you want to go after? And so they followed the rule as it's laid out to be followed. And, if they had waited around and not gotten Vrabel, they would have been crucified by the same people who were, criticizing them for the process they went through. I don't know what else they're supposed to do. I'd like to hear from you guys. Another thing that I often hear people talk about, but would like to know if it actually happens, is this idea of having all these interviews to gather intel and to gather, ideas and things like that. I mean, do we really know that other teams have done and do that? Would Robert and Jonathan Kraft and a couple of others be adept enough to say, hey, Mike, we heard from this candidate over here about how they run their shotgun formations. We'd like you to incorporate that into your offense. Is that really a thing, or is that just a thing that's a nice talking point for everybody?
No,
I don't.
I think it's really a thing. Yeah. Have you ever talked to anybody and have them?
Okay.
Had them tell you something that you didn't know?
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah.
A lot.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'd like to think I'm learning all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that those are opportunities to learn stuff. I think Jay was sort of taking it super literally, like you talk to someone and then you tell Mike, this is what you need.
No.
I think it can be as simple as, let's go to Byron Leftwich, okay? Maybe you sit him down and this guy really impresses you and you're like, wow, this guy has a very bright offensive mind. He's creative. Hey, if we need an offensive coordinator, we could do worse than this. Or down the road, if it doesn't work out with Mike Vrabel, I think we could do a lot worse than Byron Leftwich getting a head coaching opportunity. Again, I'm just using hypothetical
and that's
names.
A big point of
that's how it works.
Right.
You generate like sort of a Rolodex of information. It's not tangible like Evan's coming up with creative sail routes that are going to get. You know what's perfect against Tennessee's defense? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about relationships and
philosophy
and figuring out how other organizations do their business. And wow, we don't do it that way. How do you do analytics? How do you incorporate your analytics into your real life football operation? Oh, we do it this way. Well, you guys do it that. Wow, I never thought of that. That might be an interesting. Maybe we can change some of the things that we do. It's not really specifics because I think that would be kind of proprietary information. It's relationships and philosophies. And I think by not talking to as many people as you can, you close off opportunities. That's all.
No,
Is it the end of the world? No. Absolutely not. They had a guy they identified. To your point, Fred, maybe they feared that they were going to lose him if they dragged their feet at all. I don't think that was an option, especially based on Ian Rappaport over the weekend saying he told Tom Brady, yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to the Patriots.
Yep.
But the Patriots might not want to take that chance, knowing it. So they identified the guy they wanted, they got him. I have no issues with that. But I do understand the counter of not holding interviews deprives you of opportunities.
Yep.
That's all. I don't know how important, but opportunities.
Yep, it's true.
Like the Chargers did last year famously with Jim Harbaugh. They identified him right off the top. He was their guy. And they still interviewed 12 guys.
Yeah.
Now, you might say, well, they didn't know for sure if they were going to get Jim Harbaugh, so they had to keep interviewing people. That might be true. Because I think Harbaugh was kind of playing hardball with them a little bit last year.
Yeah.
I just think keep doing it now. This is the time to, with offensive coaches, defensive coaches, find who those young hotshots are behind the scenes. This is, maybe they're not going to come in and tell you how to change your program, but there might be some young guys who, from experience being around the league of, this guy's a young, smart guy. Like, he's headed places, and, he might be in between a job. Go get him, those kind of guys.
Well, even if you're asking, like, how many guys did Mike Vrabel mention today that he learned from?
Yeah.
So maybe you're talking to someone, and they're telling you all these guys they learned from. What if one of those guys sort of sparked something in your mind?
Vrabel had about 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay.
And you can get, so you get to talk to a guy, and he knows this other guy who learned a lot from. Maybe I might talk to that guy. There's a million different ways you can get an avenue to information.
Yeah. No, it's agreed. And that's another byproduct, a good byproduct of the Rooney Rule is just that exposure to new ideas.
That's why it exists.
Exposure to new people. And I think, Evan said it, I think this process of the OC and DC is going to take longer than the head coach. I think they might slow this one down a little bit to
Well, we're
to
going to
get
hold
more
his feet
people in
right to the
room.
fire right now. I want to know
We'll get to the
now.
bottom of it.
Well, let's not. I don't want to ask the same questions that were asked up there. I want to, ask other things.
I'm sure that you'll ask.
You can ask the first question, Paul.
No. You're the boss man.
No,
There's a reason why it says boss man on your
it's fine.
chyron up there.
All right,
boss man Fred Kirsch.
We'll keep going
You
through
lead
phone
us. You
calls.
lead us.
If Vrabel walks in, and I have to cut you off, don't take it personally. But Donovan from Delaware has already hung up, so we'll go to New York, where Andre is calling from. What's up, Andre?
Hey, fellas, how you doing?
Good.
I had a quick question I wanted to ask. I know we're still early in the off season, but I had a question about the draft. I know that obviously it matters what we get in the free agency, but I wanted to know what you guys think we should get out of Abdul Carter, McMillan, or an offensive lineman.
Well, there's another guy that I've been intrigued with a little bit.
Mason Graham.
How did you know?
Oh.
How did you know?
Just a guess.
Defensive lineman.
Well,
strikes me as a Fred Kirsch kind of guy.
Well, no, but Mason Graham is interior lineman from Michigan.
Defensive lineman.
Defensive lineman, right. And from what I understand, he's got this suddenness to his game.
He's a good player.
Yeah, like he can impact, the rush from inside. He's that quick. And I'm worried about Barmore.
Michigan won a handful of games with absolutely no offense to speak of, and the reason they did that is guys like Mason Graham.
Yeah, so I'm worried about Barmore if he doesn't come back, and if he does come back, imagine teaming him up with Mason Graham.
Imagine teaming him up with Abdul
I like
Carter.
the player. I just think it's, and I know I've said this a million times. They can literally pick anything. They need to pick the best player, and and if they think that Mason Graham is that much better than anybody else, by all means. I just think that would be less of a need than
Abdul Carter,
edge, wide receiver, tackle,
Right.
like a need. They need defensive tackles. I would not sit here and say, "What are they doing? They picked a guard." No, they need a good defensive tackle, and he's a good player. Yeah, by all accounts, he's a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
Top 5 talent anyway. I don't know if he'll go in the top.
But
5.
Abdul Carter's intriguing as well, because he's got that special motor on the edge. And
I like me said Abdul Carter.
I like
I thought he
me
was
some,
really impressive in that
He
Notre
was.
Dame
He's
game.
not getting a 4. That's what I'm worried about now. But
Thank you, fellas.
yeah.
Okay, thanks, Andre. Yeah.
I said to Paul, generally speaking, there's 5 main positions that you feel like you need, right? Like quarterback, left tackle, wide receiver, elite corner, elite edge rusher. Big 5. Everybody wants that elite tackle right now. Well, if it's not there, then you might be able to get the defensive end with Abdul Carter. That might be the guy at the top that you just look. You're gonna have to figure it out. Maybe by the time you get there, you have some options on offensive line. I think we spend so much time focusing on tackle and wide receiver, which granted those are 2 of the other open spots, but do either one of those one make sense at 4?
I kind of think I
don't know.
agree with Mike. I think there's a gap between your guy, Mason Graham, and Abdul Carter, and McMillan.
Yeah.
And Banks or
Yeah.
Campbell.
Well, and
I
listening
think
to
I
what-
think the defensive end and tackle are better players than the wide receiver and offensive tackle.
And just what Vrabel said, I mean, that was part of it. He talked about the passing game. He talked about being able to affect the passer, so that's a big part of it. So if you have a chance to get somebody like Abdul Carter, who is going to be instant rocket fuel for your pass rush, then, I think you got to get him. But I don't know if he's making them 4.
Brian's in Holbrook. Hey, Brian.
Hi. How you guys doing? Sorry.
Hey. We're good.
I just was curious, how come no reporter, when Vrabel was doing the introduction press conference, asked him if he will have final call or who will have final call?
And that was
I know
like the
it sounds
first
like
question.
Up in the air.
He was asked that.
Tom Curran asked it.
Yeah.
He did?
Yes.
Yeah. He was kind of non-committal about the answer, which kind of worries me a little bit. Not gonna lie.
Well, I don't think he wants to get up there with people in the room and start throwing things around.
He made me feel better.
Yeah. I think he's being a little bit diplomatic there, and but I would venture to guess that that's going to be talked about. And I think that if
Maybe it hasn't been determined
if the
finally.
if the
I mean, I don't
reports
know.
are true that he's bringing in this guy that he likes, that'll be him running personnel by proxy.
Ryan Cowden is that guy.
Because I'm sure Wolf and this guy will be told to work together, but when there's a disagreement, it'll go to Vrabel, and he'll be the arbiter, and he'll side with his guy.
Be interesting.
You know?
It's interesting, like for a coach, like what do you prefer as a personnel guy? Do you want, like it's just about seeing the game the same way and knowing what you want to run, and if they can give you, it's an interesting kind of relationship to establish with somebody. Like, you find someone who really sees the game the same way as you, or is it that hard of a switch if you go to a place and there's someone who's managing personnel already and has a system in place, and you say, look, he gets it. He knows good players. I know good players. It's not.
I just want the coach to have final say over the 53-man roster. That's all. Like if you have to have another guy that has the actual final say in the draft, or whether signing someone or whatever, that can be a collaborative process, to use that word that everybody sort of recoils at now from last year. But you got to let the coach pick the players.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
All right. I'm told he's about 2 minutes away.
Evan's giving us a 2.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's saying deuces.
It's happening. He should be.
I wonder what they had for lunch. What do you give?
Is that the first question out of the chute?
Sure.
Okay.
What do you give a guy who you just signed as your head coach? You don't have a lot of time. What do you serve for lunch?
Lobster bisque.
Yeah, like just nice little fillet, like a couple fillets out. Like.
Yeah, I honestly have no idea.
We're gonna find out.
Yeah. Okay.
We're gonna find out.
It's gonna be
Freddie.
Chick-fil-A.
Here he comes. Okay, bring him in. We're not gonna take a break.
Should we play the music?
We'll just
do it live.
Just bring him right in.
Let people experience the awkwardness in real time.
Just bring him right in. Don't be nervous.
Let's go.
Don't be nervous.
Let's go. You've done this before.
How are we doing?
Look like I just walked into a retirement home.
I love it. All right, let's go. Sit down. Sit down. How many cameras do we need? We have cameras everywhere. What? Okay.
I've been billing you as the professional ball buster, and of course you come in shooting.
I love it.
That's
It's
perfect.
great. I love it. I tell a story when
I just walked into Shady Acres.
it's like Golden Girls.
Don't make me swear.
Yeah.
We're on the
But
air.
do you remember after the Carolina, we did that 3 Games to Glory too, and you sat down with, I think it was Givens and Branch, and you did the director's cut. Then afterwards, I wanted you to look at some stuff. You started, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? Why'd you do that? You started like you were Mr. And I love that.
I'm sure I had an opinion on it.
Oh, you did. It was great. We didn't take any of your advice, but it was fun, But
Good.
I like that. I like that about you, and I'm sure that you're going to bring a lot to the table, that way, because
Fred said you would have made it better, but they were a little bit too far.
we were too far in the
editing
process. I couldn't take advantage of it. So my first question to you is, what gets served at lunch to the new head coach of the New England Patriots?
Chicken salad.
Chicken salad? That
Quick,
was it?
in a cup. It was quick.
Oh, man.
It's the best we could do.
A little disappointed. No
Somebody,
lobster.
along the interview process, somebody asked me what I dislike about coaching football. And I said, outside of losing, I would say the abundance of food that's available at any given second. It's just like anything that you want. Treats, snacks, chips, food. And I'm like, it's got to stop. At some point in time, it's just like enough's enough.
I hear you, because,
That's true. That was the bad part of the plane.
we
That didn't do well
you
for
travel
me.
to all the games, and the amount of food that gets wasted, it's unbelievable.
Or eaten.
Or eaten. It's always there. And I tell people when we first hired, say, you don't have to eat everything. You don't have to eat everything, because they just keep serving it to you.
So, Mike, this is one of our newer members, Mike Dussault. Who's
Welcome.
Yeah.
Do you have your little?
You want to show it? All right. Yeah.
This is one of his first purchases for his newborn.
My son.
Now, how old is he
Back
now?
in the day, he's
14,
16.
16.
He's 16 now, so I had to bring it in.
So he's got a little bit of a man
And I would
crush,
say
so just
that
let
that's,
me know.
yeah, I would
Let
say
me know if
Tyler
he
and
gets
Carter
too
probably
close.
both wore one of those as well.
if you
But
need a
is he
restraining
Is he a
order-
rookie on this squad?
No, he's
Ken?
been here since 2019. His first playoff game with us. Well,
Okay.
Fred
You
and
know
I
what
are used to
happened.
just winning titles. His first playoff game, you beat us.
Yeah, so you're probably gonna have to get rid of me if you want to.
So this is all, and then Evan Lazar is our new, actually our newest.
Yeah, he's
you
the
know Evan
newest.
a little bit, right?
He's our resident XO savant.
He said he was going to embarrass me.
So, but no, seriously, this guy. If you want, just ask him. He'll tell you.
You want to know if you should run gap or zone.
He can run your
schemes,
offense. Yeah.
And if you listen to the press conference, I said I would hope for versatility to be able to have zone scheme, but then when some of those penetrating fronts
to be able to have some gap scheme and some double teams at the line of scrimmage, that it's going to help some of that penetration.
We did. And Mike and I looked at Evan, and he was like,
So Evan, what would you recommend then?
What would I recommend?
Yeah.
That's his job. That's not my job.
I'm giving you a chance.
What's
to
your
show
favorite
up.
run? What's your favorite run?
Oh, my favorite run, power.
Power.
Pull the guard.
Down,
Get
down, down, and around.
Get downhill. Maybe hit a little play action behind it every once in a while.
Now the thing is with power, we got to find a fullback or we got to find a tight end that can move and get in some of those movements, but don't disagree with some of that.
Can you bring Jakob Johnson back? Because he can speak German, and that's one of our markets.
Yeah, there's a lot of people down there in Tennessee that thought he was pretty good too.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Yeah.
We'll find somebody that can do it.
Yeah. So, it's been a whirlwind, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Have you had a chance to even just think about what's going on? Or are you still
No, and I think the problem was I had so much time yesterday to think about it that it was just like text messages were coming in, and it was almost like I was paralyzed. I didn't even know where to start to try to respond to anybody that was texting, and so, that's going to take I don't even know how long.
Yeah.
But just people that have had an impact or that were texting and congratulations and. The one thing that this is exciting, but we also want to make sure that we have a small circle and that we have a certain amount of people that we trust, and I try to explain that to the players that nobody texts you when you lose, right? And so you have a tough loss or a tough game, and those people that reach out to you then. I always say when we start winning, remember who those people were because the text messages start to go up.
Yeah.
When you win.
Yeah.
And so
and the requests.
it's a good reminder that the people that are there when you're not at your best should be the ones that are there when you're at your best.
Do you even know where you're going to live yet?
No. Patriot Place. Stayed in a nice hotel when we were here for the Hall of Fame, so I'm sure I'll start
You talk
there.
a little bit better about Patriot Place nowadays than you used to, huh?
Was that like did I talk negatively about
it?
it?
Was the Patriot way that he was critical of it?
No,
the
no,
street
no.
outfit.
I'm kidding.
No, it was just like that was a different role. Like
yeah,
even Robert and I talk about that. Like I was trying to do my role as a union rep and on the executive committee, and that was my obligation. And now
you got to deal
I've
with
got
the
a
union
different
rep.
role.
Right.
But we're very familiar with those and all the rules and everything. Like. We're going to do what's best for the players.
You mentioned, helping out you and being there when things aren't good, when things are bad. Since you've been gone, my role, I run all the content here, and
humble brag.
Content has changed in sports and in the NFL, and it's, as you know, Surf Melendez, I'm friends with him back in Tennessee, and the stuff they used to do with you, and social media has changed. What's your view of all of that stuff? Like players having their own social media, players having their own podcasts and all that stuff. Do you have, feelings about that or?
Sure. I mean, I think that's a part of our life, and it's something that we probably need to embrace. It's the way a lot of these younger kids communicate. And our involvement on social media may be less than what these kids are coming out. And so I think that it can be positive if it's done correctly. That if you trying to be focused on what you want to do and using the right intent, that can be positive. And the podcasts, I think you're careful. You just have to be careful. They get very conversational and relaxed.
Exactly.
And, again, I've been on podcasts before. I've said things that you're wanting to be funny that ends up, and it wasn't negative. It was just a joke that seems to have gone on. But you just have to be careful what happened. What happens is people cut out small snippets of a podcast, and then the player's like, well, I didn't say that. I didn't mean it like that. And I understand that they didn't. But after a course of 45 minutes, it's a relaxed setting, and then they let their guard down, and then it becomes something bigger. So the biggest thing for me is the education, how to use it, how to communicate it, how to put your brand out there, your message, try to make it about the team and not so much I or me, but we and us.
Yeah. We've been there. Have you had much interaction with some of your former teammates? talking about this leading up to taking the job?
No. I still text players and, teammates, but not a whole lot of as it related to this or, I was busy and, but obviously Teddy and Willie and Rosie and Seymour and, Tom, I've heard from a lot of guys and reached out and texted and,
Yeah.
I'm proud of those relationships.
Yeah, I asked because Teddy was really supportive of you getting this job, and I thought he was really strong. Even yesterday, when it was already announced that you had agreed, I thought he was really a guy that seemed to be in your corner.
Well, linebackers stick together,
Yeah.
right?
Well, Teddy, and Teddy was one of those guys that helped me become a pro. Like Teddy and I have different personalities, but we both believe in the same thing. And, Teddy taught me that no is a complete sentence, and I'll never forget that. And I said, well, how do you? He's like, no. See, no.
Yeah.
Been on the other side of that one.
No, that's good. It makes a lot of sense.
You've been on the other side of that
Teddy?
one?
Yeah.
With Teddy? Oh, yeah.
How much different do you feel that your second time around here as you sit on the precipice of starting off another franchise here as a head coach?
Well, it's almost sometimes do you know too much about what the job's going to entail, and that can be a positive, because I did think that you get into, there was one option. It was the Tennessee job the last time, and there may or may not have been more options now. So then you start looking and you like, can you overthink something? And you never want your players to be in that position where they're overthinking something, right? It wants to be like, I'm trained, I'm prepared, I'm poised, I'm instinctive, and I'm ready to go make a decision, as opposed to, well, this, that, the other thing, what about this? And so I think you're more experienced, but then that also leads into the ability to sometimes second guess what you're doing.
I mean, I know personally, I rarely get things right the first time, right? It takes me a couple times to get it right. And I'm not saying you're like that, but having been a head coach before and now this is your second stint, is there one thing you say, I'm going to do this differently this time, or this is what I've learned that I want to incorporate that I wasn't able to the last time?
No, not necessarily that. I mean, just making sure that the roster has competition throughout. Just whatever you feel like is the frontline starters and the backups, and making sure that everybody prepares as a starter each and every week. Try to keep everybody engaged, and hope that they take advantage of opportunities.
It's
talked about
now.
the connection piece.
Yeah.
That's critical,
Yeah,
and making sure that we have people that, are willing to get to know the players on another level.
Even since when you were a player, like practice rules have changed, and it's tougher to hold these practices, especially during the season where you keep, the
well, we
hitting
want to
and-
be
yeah.
we want to be efficient, and we want to practice with speed, so that the timing of different routes and coverages or pressures are there. I mean, I think great teams know how to practice without full pads, but there's a speed. They stay off the ground, so we'll practice as hard and as fast as we can based on, the availability of the players to stay healthy and stay on their feet and not fall all over the place.
You still putting the pads on?
Yeah, will we see the chest pad on?
Yeah, you know what I mean? We love that thing.
Yeah.
It's nice and thin. It can travel anywhere. It can go in your suitcase and go to the workouts. And that's been a good pad that they made for us.
Okay.
One of the things that was you got to wrap it up? We got to go? All right, yeah, we'll wrap it up.
One more question.
Well, I was just going to say, one of the things that stuck out to me when you talked about the college players and the differences, spending 5 years at a program as opposed to 6 months. What have you seen the differences as they come to you?
That the accountability, maybe they were enabled at college, don't want to tell them things that may disappoint them or upset them for fear for them to go and look for another offer. So sometimes that leads to a player that's not as accountable to the team as he needs to be. And that's okay. Like we can change, we can, do our part to help change some of those behaviors.
All right. Mike Vrabel,
Thanks, guys.
head coach of the New England Patriots. Welcome
Appreciate
back.
it. Welcome back.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
All right. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. Thanks. Good to see you.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
With FedEx One Rate, you can ship to your student for a simple, predictable flat rate. Send a box full of home-baked treats that say, "Your father and I miss you." Or send a box full of instant noodles that says, "Your father and I would like you to stop asking us for money." Either way, one rate fits all. FedEx One Rate. 2-day shipping, one flat rate. Starting at $14.50. Visit fedex.com/one-rate for details. Exclusions apply.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
With FedEx One Rate, you can ship to your student for a simple, predictable flat rate. Send a box full of home-baked treats that say, "Your father and I miss you." Or send a box full of instant noodles that says, "Your father and I would like you to stop asking us for money." Either way, one rate fits all. FedEx One Rate. 2-day shipping, one flat rate. Starting at $14.50. Visit fedex.com/one-rate for details. Exclusions apply.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
All right, well, we had our first sit down with Mike Vrabel. I hope it's not our
I was
last.
going to say probably the last.
Yeah. But no, he came right in firing rockets right off the bat, making fun of us.
So basically, I would say to anybody that Fred and I were trying to explain to before the press conference what his Mike Vrabel is like, that's it. That's a professional ball buster.
Yeah.
Shady Acres Retirement
Love
Home.
it. Just plops into the chair. No problem. Yeah, it's fun.
There you go.
Yeah. Evan, you got a little bit of an opportunity to, talk
What were you thinking? You were like, I better not say RPO because they'll be like, we're not getting out of here.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ev. We're going back to a fullback.
Yeah, right. I mean, look, I'm excited about that idea of going back to a fullback, Paul. I'm all for it.
Great.
As long as he can catch, right?
I don't know.
Once in a while.
Does Patrick Ricard catch? I mean, watching him on over the weekend, I was like, wouldn't mind that.
What do you think of my
Wouldn't mind
Mason
Lamar
Graham?
Jackson and Derrick Henry either.
What do you think of my Mason Graham love?
Good player. Good player. I kind of agree with the guys though that is that a premium position of need for the Patriots, and how does that shake out with him and Barmore in the front, and like how do you go about that? And you hope that maybe a guy like Mike Vrabel can get Keon White on the right track, and so really good player. If you're just trying to grab talent and go best player available, I can see where your head's at.
Yeah.
I think we all like him.
I know. I was saying Thursday night, it felt like Abdul Carter. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I mean,
Top
it's
three.
a good chance he's the number one overall pick.
That's the realization I had of like the guy being like, I don't really care if they lose the first overall pick, to like me watching that game Thursday night being like, you could have just drafted Abdul Carter.
Yeah, I think what stands out to him and what would make him so exciting with Vrabel is that he only played edge for 1 year at Penn State, so he's relatively new to playing on the line of scrimmage, and he's still that good and that dominant at college. So we're talking about him putting on the pads and going out there. Imagine him training up Abdul Carter on the nuances of rushing the passer and things like that, and where his development could then take him from there to be a full-time edge player would be something else.
Well, I brought up with Paul what he did with Harold Landry, who not that kind of athlete, but good player nonetheless, and similar kind of role that he developed him.
Keep going.
He's talking. And so how about them Blue Jays?
All right. No, I just wanted to get emails loaded up. We've got a S-load of emails, but do one more call because Ernie's been holding on before Vrabel came into the room. Ernie's in Tennessee. What's up, Ernie?
Where you at, Rodney?
Hi, I enjoy your show and podcast. I just went into Middle Tennessee YMCA this morning with my Vrabel jersey and hoping to bust some balls, and I got a reaction that I wasn't expecting. They were all like, "Oh, you got a great coach. Oh, Vrabel's a great guy. Wish we had him." You know, it was like, wow. They all loved him. So
Yep.
I just wanted to share that at least the fans in Tennessee love the guy.
Yeah. No, he's
appreciated what
Yeah.
he did.
Yep. Thanks, Ernie. Appreciate the call.
Thanks, Ernie. I agree with that, though, because his personality, you see the personality. He's sort of an easy guy to sort of connect with because he's kind of just like your friends.
Yeah.
You know, busting balls all the
Right.
time.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
obviously none of that matters if he can't coach.
Right.
But I can understand why the Tennessee fans liked him.
Sure. Spian Fresno writes in podcasts at Patriots.com. Feels like walking into a retirement home was the moment I got fully on board with the hire. What a great moment having Vrabel on the show today. Evan got his input in and is now fully to blame or credit if all the team runs is power. So,
fullback.
Power, great
on the
play.
spot.
I was a little, thrown whatever.
I felt like he was throwing
Yeah.
red meat to the
Power, really? That's your best run?
Oh yeah,
Really?
Yeah, you pull the guard around,
Throwing
get
red
him up
meat to
on the
the
linebacker.
Derrick Henry coach.
Then you pull the guard
Downhill.
around and it's play action. They can't tell the difference.
Right,
it looks the
right.
same. You hit that bang slant right behind
He
it.
had said double reverse or something, and Vrabel
Yeah.
like, wow.
I almost
Bro.
I almost said duo, but power duo is a good play too.
Mark writes in, I'm over the moon with the hiring of stable Mike Vrabel and truly believe that he will be a successful head coach in New England and think Mr. Kraft should be commended for how quickly and efficiently he's rectified his mistake. But would you agree with me that the lack of talent on the team of late, it would appear to be time to change the talent spotting element to help improve the major issue? That's a work in progress. Identifying talent and getting them on into the team, that's a work in progress. And we'll see what head coach Mike Vrabel has to say about that.
Yeah, I'm interested. We're planning to go to Mobile here in a couple weeks, some of us, and I'm sure he'll be there with Elliott, and we'll see maybe what we get to talk to him a little bit down there and get to that chapter. Like right now we're doing nursing homes and things like that. We'll get to the point where we're talking about it.
I believe it was retirement.
We'll get to
not nursing yet.
We'll get to the talent evaluation. But he did mention Elliott Wolf multiple times in his introductory press conference, and it seemed, whether that was just for appearances or not, it seemed like he had sort of hit it off almost a little bit with Elliott already.
I got the same impression, and
Yeah.
I also would say, I don't know if you were here when we were talking about some of our impressions, I didn't get the feel that he was being coy by not giving you much information about offensive and defensive coordinators. I think that's very much a work in progress.
Yeah.
Which I think it should be. I hope it is. I hope, to your point,
See, I
Paul,
would have hoped that
they're
he had guys that,
already lined up.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he does, but maybe he's just not.
Well, that's
showing
why I
his
said I
cards.
didn't get the impression that he was being coy.
Yeah.
I think that he's open.
Yeah.
He's open to learning about people. I figured he would have at least someone on, one of those two, he would have a guy in mind.
Yeah.
What's that? Na-na-na-na-na?
I had an itch on my nose.
Oh.
So I scratched it.
Carrie in Exeter, New Hampshire. Geez, guys, Evan gets to stand in the corner when Coach Vrabel arrives. Get the guy a stool or a chair.
So true. So true.
Oh,
it's okay.
Disrespect.
It was like Alex during picks last week.
Yeah, I'll give up my seat for the head coach.
We
I think I can do that.
disrespected him a little bit.
It's okay.
Let's see. That's the same one. Adam writes in, I love when there's a yapper on the phone who just wants to hear themselves talk, and Fred accidentally hits the button to hang up on
That
them.
may or may not have happened.
Then to see Paul doing his best to hold the laughter in gets me every time, laughing my butt off in my office right now.
In Fred's defense, he does do the he tries to put the little sounds in to wrap
He
it
try-
up. He gives them little
yeah,
cues.
He
you know,
gives you a couple of
"Ah."
chances, and when you don't take it, he just goes, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Boom, roasted.
Still in Seattle writes in, I'm not one of the delusional fans that thinks Mayo is the worst coach that ever lived or that Vrabel is going to take this team to the Super Bowl next season. I'm in watch and see mode. The team is in a multi-year rebuild regardless of who's got the headset, in my opinion. So what has Vrabel done that makes everyone so optimistic that he can turn this situation around? Drake May has an okay rookie season, but I'm far from comfortable with calling him a franchise quarterback right now, so I hope that's not what people are leaning on. It's a very important time for the team because if this hire doesn't work, we're going to be in for over a decade of suck. I agree. We're at a crossroads.
I agree with a
and
lot
there's
of
no
that,
guarantees.
But I push back on the notion that they can't be relevant next year. I'm not ready to say that they're going to be a title contender, obviously, but like look at Washington. Like I couldn't help but watch that game last night and think to myself, like without saying Terry McLaurin, who was on the Commanders 2 years ago?
I've said this so many times
this
season.
That was any different than what the Patriots' talent is right now. They hit on the quarterback, they hit on the culture, defensive-minded head coach, and they hit on Cliff Kingsbury, and now they're off and running. They're in the divisional round. I'm not saying the Patriots are going to be that, but I think the notion that they're so far away.
You can turn it around.
That's the part that I always say. Like this idea that it takes 3 years. Like in the NFL is I don't want to say the word easiest, but it's the easiest to do it quickly out of the major sports.
You think so?
Yes,
Yeah.
because of everything that Evan just said. There are all the avenues that are there for you. I think the lack of guaranteed contracts even helps you. You can go from bad to playoff contender in a blink.
If you have a quarterback.
I'm not telling you it's easy.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you it's easy because it's not easy. But I've seen a million examples of teams like Washington that just go from really bad to pretty good overnight. Now, can they sustain that? We'll find out. But Washington was every bit as bad as New England last year. They finished tied with the second worst record in football. They played on the field. The game came down to the last play. There was a deflected interception. Washington ended up winning. They were the same teams. And one of them just won 12 games and the other one won 4. They both hit on the quarterback.
Yeah.
So I think there are some things that you can do to figure it out. And Evan's right. The only thing that they really have that the Patriots don't is Terry McLaurin. Brian Robinson's not any better than Ramondre Stevenson. Zach Ertz isn't any better than Hunter Henry. You know, Austin Eckler at this stage of his career isn't any better than Antonio Gibson. They got Brandon Coleman in what, the 3rd round?
Yes.
To play left tackle.
I think almost back-to-back picks
You know,
with Caden Wallace.
Yeah, I think he was picked the pick before Caden Wallace.
Yeah.
So he hasn't been great, but their quarterback has been special. They're finding ways to win some games late in games. I think that's like the 5th go-ahead touchdown that they've had, or go-ahead drive that they've had, or something crazy
Is Dan
like
Quinn
that.
underrated?
I don't know. Maybe he is.
Yeah.
I mean, I never thought that much of him.
If he would
but
just turn the cap around. I mean, that's my only problem with him.
I mean, it's not like he went to Dallas and made them great. It's not like he went to the Rams and he went to Atlanta and took them to the Super Bowl.
Right.
And now he's at Washington, which has been awful for 20 years, and he's made them pretty good.
Right. So that's why I asked the question.
Maybe he is underrated.
He's really good at hiring people, and I think that's the next big step for Vrabel. In Atlanta, he hired Kyle Shanahan as his offensive coordinator and Steve Sarkisian.
And there it is.
And then now in Washington, he's hired Cliff Kingsbury. And the offensive coordinator hire is now the biggest decision that Vrabel has to make. And he should be, like to Mike's point, I think he needs to hear multiple avenues. You know, obviously we know McDaniels is out there. We've heard Tommy Reese's name thrown around from Cleveland, but there are other names out there. You know, Josh McCown's out there as a quarterback's coach. Like maybe he's the guy. Who knows? But to Dan Quinn's credit, he's done a really good job of building that side of the ball in terms of his staff because that's not his area of expertise. So he's hired really good coordinators, 3 of them, really.
Yeah. JL writes in, first time emailing or contacting the show in any way, although I've been listening for over a decade. Do you think Coach Vrabel was also addressing the players as well as everyone else when he commented on having multiple staff members focusing on the needs of players off the field? I found it interesting how much he emphasized the players, their mental and physical health throughout the press conference. I think we all noticed that, you know, and I think maybe in today's NFL or sports, modern sports, you have to.
It is. I mean, the story he told about a guy being a little late to a meeting or, you know, coming in and not being ready to meet, like that says everything to me. I think that's, you know, those are the meetings that guys miss. Those are, you know, I think he's just showing that you have to be a little bit more open-minded with players today and what they're going through. And I think it'll come back to you if if these guys feel like they're cared about and they're seen just as people and not just players who are there to do a job. That I think that's better for everybody.
Lexi in Orlando, Florida. Maybe a silly question, but where does Vrabel's contract money come from? Does it lower the available cap? No. It's another pool of money, and that's the owner's discretion, right? There's no coaching cap in the NFL.
Correct.
Yep.
Does not affect the salary cap.
Yep. Let's see. Stuff about Evan.
No.
More stuff about Evan.
Delete it, yeah.
Josh writes in, this could be a pipe dream on my end, but do you see a path to A.J. Brown joining the Patriots via trade? Brown is disgruntled in Philly, something in full display last night with his sideline book antics, and has a previous relationship with Vrabel. I think he's on the market, and we're in a position financially to take in a guy that's already signed a multi-year extension. I'm not overly concerned with any character issues, just Howie Roseman's asking price. That being said, we're talking about a guy that cried on draft night because the Patriots didn't draft him. What was that all about with him reading the book?
It's like a motivational book.
It's
a
apparently,
motivation book.
Apparently he does it quite a bit, but they just caught him on camera doing it.
Yeah, and I would actually say, I'm not going to dismiss the email because I think the email is right. I think there's a chance that he's available.
Yeah.
So, and I think if he is, I think he probably likes Vrabel, and we know he likes the Patriots. So I would say that there's a possibility there, and that's I don't think he's disgruntled because of the book last night. The book, I think, is. Did you see him?
Yeah.
He had a big smile on his face, and they were laughing about it.
No, I know, but
and to Evan's point, it's something he does often.
Yeah.
At that point in the game, was the game decided?
No.
So, shouldn't he be focused on the game?
But I think that's how he focuses. I might be reading into this a
that-
little too
I
much.
think
I
you're
think
right.
that's
What he
part
said.
of his
I think you're
focus.
right, yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah, I don't want to talk out of turn because I don't know A.J. Brown, but I think that's part of his process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, there have been other signs this year that would tell you that he's disgruntled, like when he said, what do we need to do? We got to improve the passing game.
Yeah.
Look,
he's a diva wide receiver, so when he doesn't get his, he's going to feel some type of way about it. And last night when they showed him on the bench reading the book, I think he had one catch for 10 yards at that point, and they were running the ball a lot. And
what happened on the next drive?
Did they feed him?
He made an unbelievable block.
Yeah.
On the next drive, they made a big thing out of it. I don't think last night is the illustration of your example of him being disgruntled, but I do think there's a chance that he could be available this offseason.
I would take him, put him at the top of the list for me.
Now, Philadelphia would be crazy to get rid of him because I think that offense needs him badly.
Yeah, I think he's the type of receiver, and I know it's one of the best receivers in football. That's the type of receiver. But he's the type of receiver, though, from a skill set standpoint, that I really do believe Vrabel gravitates towards. And I know that, we sometimes poke fun at the ability to block and all that kind of stuff, but an all-situation receiver that allows you to then, incorporate things off of the run game with him on the field because he can hold his own in terms of blocking, I think does scream their type now.
Would you give a 1 for him?
Oh, yeah.
4?
No, next year's 1.
Next year.
I'm not giving 4.
So you give 6.
Not if we have A.J. Brown.
Well, if you give
We're
6 now, you might maybe it turns out.
John in South Carolina, looking at the past 4 years of drafts, one of the lowest success rates goes to drafting a tackle. Last year, there was only one player titled as tackle. That player ended up starting. I would say if we think there is a tackle at 4, we need to take him. Not sure after that, maybe an edge rusher.
I don't understand.
I don't either.
If tackle has been a poor success rate, then why would you say we got to take a tackle at 4?
I think he's meaning, he said of guys who were labeled tackle, only one ended up starting.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that means. But he's hit the first part of his email was that tackle, because this is what I agree with. Tackle has been sort of sketchy in the first round lately, and then he said they need to take, because of that, you need to take tackle.
Well, he's saying you got to take the sure thing up high.
Yeah, but it's not a sure thing. He just sort of illustrated why it's not a sure thing.
Yeah.
Well, more than one.
I can think of Brandon Coleman and Rosengarten right off the top of my head.
Well, Joe Alt, if you're talking about
Joe Alt,
J.C. Latham.
I think his point is it's a crapshoot with tackle. So if there's a good one, you better take him because lower it's a crapshoot. But There's a lot of tackles in the league. They're not all bad, and they all weren't taken in
But
the
I would
top
also
10.
say, like, there is no sure thing. Like,
No, of course not.
But that's the part of it that I
Just
have
give me
been
good
arguing
coaching.
against. I think there's a sort of line of thought that it's a safe first-round pick, tackle. And I'm just telling you, the only reason why you think that way is because you can't evaluate that position like you can others. I certainly can't. Evan does.
Yeah.
And, Greg and the guys that do, Taylor Kyles. I'm saying all
Nice
you
shot to
guys
Taylor
that
there.
do all
The
you
ball knowers.
No, the guys that do the all 22, they can maybe evaluate a little bit better than most. Most people do not watch those guys to that level that they're telling you that Kingsley Suamatea is not as good as Roger Rosengarten.
Yeah.
Most people were just telling you, well, this guy started, that guy started, they're all right. Well, one of them can't play, and one of them, I shouldn't say he can't play. One of them really struggled, and the other one has been pretty serviceable. He had a great night the other night on TJ Watt.
Yep.
Whereas it's very easy to see a wide receiver who catches 9 passes, or in the case of our second-round pick, 12 passes, and say he didn't have a good year.
Yeah.
It's right there for everybody to see.
Yeah.
That's what makes, tackle
no, I know.
safer than wide receiver.
All the offensive line, right?
Not the
Yeah.
ability, not their ability. It's
Yeah.
There's plenty of misses
Yeah.
in the first round with tackle over the years. The emailer is exactly right.
Yeah, I that was the most encouraging part though for me from the press conference was his just saying that it's critical to get the trenches right here and to get especially not just the trenches in terms of physicality and finish, but pass protection. He specifically talked about protecting the quarterback.
And he talked about getting involved with offensive line coaching.
Yeah. And protecting the quarterback is in disrupting the quarterback on the other side. And you just look at the statistics. The Patriots 32nd in the league in pass block win rate, 30th in the league in pressure rate on the other side. That right there says so much to me about why they stunk for 2 years. It's because they couldn't protect the quarterback and they couldn't get after the quarterback. And this guy's coming in and saying, what's your number one off-season need? And he's saying protecting the quarterback. And I think that should be music to everybody's ears. Now, how they get there is a story that we can talk about for the next 4 months. But that piece of it is key, and he said it right off the bat.
I'm watching Felger on TV, and
seems
I
mad
can
about
just
something.
tell. I can just tell from his
irritated?
body language, he's figuring out a way to make this a bad day for the New England Patriots. In your text chain, Paul, has he shared that with you? How this
I'm
is
not on the
terrible?
text chain on Mondays, only Wednesdays
Okay.
when I go in for
How terrible this is a day and the
veins
decision
are
this was.
bulging.
Ellen, Wisconsin writes in, are you worried at all that through the whole press conference, Vrabel didn't refer to Robert Kraft as Thunder even once? For real, though, I'm excited. I was rooting for Johnson, but I think Vrabel immediately makes the team relevant. We won't be wondering anymore if issues are due to talent or coaching. Well, let's hope.
Well,
we know Vrabel's a good coach, but he's got to fill that staff.
See, those are it's statements like that. I'm like, well, how do we know that? Can we let the process play out before we just make these declarative statements?
No.
I get the lot more of the Parcells
No, it doesn't
vibe.
work.
That to me is, I didn't really put that together, but over the last couple of days, I just see a lot of parallels from when Parcells got here. Granted, it wasn't as bad as it was then, and there's been success, but just a tough coach who's established, who brings a little bit of personality that we've already seen. It's good. It's what they need.
Let's see. Kevin says for our schedule release video, we should do cheers. And the cast list is Cliff Clavin is Evan, Norm is Fred, Woody is Paul, Rebecca is Tamara, Sam is Mike Vrabel. That makes sense. Lilith is Alex Francisco, Frazier is Alex Barth, and Coach is Matt or Hardy. Okay. All right, we're already thinking about
I
us.
can be Woody.
Yeah.
Am I Cliff Clavin?
You're
Cliff
Cliff
Clavin.
Clavin.
A fun fact.
You know everything.
If you run duo and
Power.
I was really excited. He said that, we're going to need a fullback. And I was like, sure are, Mikey.
Are we talking
Sure
ball
are.
right now? Am I talking ball with the HC and the NEP right now?
We sure are going to need a fullback, Mike.
you.
Paul's life just ended.
Josh is at home.
22
just like,
passes a
yes,
game. No more than 22 passes a game.
fullback.
a lot of people like the fact that he came in here busting Paul and my balls.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming that, well.
No, I think he got me too.
Yeah.
I got some gray hairs. I look old.
Yeah.
I look old. You do not look old. You do not look anywhere near as old as.
Well, he looks
I
like
do.
that 1950s sitcom father.
That's right, son.
Very stately.
Sit down and tell
Yeah.
us about
Yeah.
your day.
Knock him in the middle.
Yeah, with a pipe. Micah from South Dakota. Fred, we got a guy. That guy has me wanting to run through a brick wall for him. It's very clear that he has a presence about him as a leader. What I find awesome is that if you listen to Taylor Lewin and Will Compton on their podcast talk about Mike Vrabel, they say playing for Vrabel is hard, but rewarding because they always knew if they did what they were coached to do, they'd have a chance to win. Vrabel has a plan, and I'm all on board with whatever he sees fit for this team. Go Patriots!
It's one of my concerns. And that's why I asked him the question about the players and what he's seen and the differences.
Oh, yeah.
It's a hard coaching.
Those guys, Taylor Lewan obviously is a guy, that's what he wanted. And I think most players, so let's just call it 8 years ago, probably would take to that approach. I think there was a concerted effort by Gerard Mayo and his staff last year to understand that that way doesn't always work, and they needed to change. Now, is there a happy medium? Because clearly what Gerard Mayo didn't work. And I made this comment many times. I don't think I'm speaking out of school. There was a comment made by Gerard to me that he said, if you're going to ask him to run through a wall, you got to hug him first. And I always thought it's the other way around. You got to ask them to run through a wall, and then when they do it right, you give them the hug, and then they'll do it again.
Don't give them the reward
Don't
until
give
they
them
earn
the reward until they earn it. And I do feel like Vrabel is the other way. Obviously, Bill was.
Well, I think
but
it's,
I do think Vrabel is a guy who will give you the hug when you earn it.
Yeah, I think it's critical that he gets the leaders in that locker room that are his disciples so that the best players on the team are doing what he wants, so then the other guys...
Might be the best reason to keep David Andrews around for
Yeah,
another year.
absolutely.
Yeah, he's one of those guys.
Absolutely.
Keon White's going to love Mike Vrabel.
Jeremiah writes in, I think Vrabel putting a light on the entitlement aspect on the team was big due to the disarray in player press conferences all last season. I hope that he instills in these players how easy it is to lose your job no matter how good you think you are.
Yeah, I meant to bring that up. I thought
I
that
loved that
was
line.
pointed. Like, I thought that was a very pointed comment, and not just to the players and maybe what he observed from the outside looking in last year. But let's face it, there's 6 banners hanging up in the stadium, and like he said, it's not going to help us, right? It's not going to help us that we did all this winning 20 years ago. This is a new group. It's a new set of players. It's a new front office. It's a new coaching staff. And I thought that he felt like maybe there was still a little bit of that, well, we're the Patriots, so we're just going to walk off the bus and we're going to win games because we're the Patriots. And and you kind of have to go through it again. You have to go through the hard work again.
That and the creating competition. You talked about the roster, not just the starters, but creating competition, among the, up throughout the roster.
Yep.
I like that.
You know who was big on that, believe it or not?
Who was big on that?
Pete Carroll.
Pete Carroll.
Very, very big on competition. Kevin in Providence, only time will tell if Vrabel will work out as head coach, but my goodness, is it great to have a competent adult be the face of the franchise. If you showed 100 people who know nothing about football Mayo's intro presser last year and the one that Vrabel just did, and asked them, which organization do you feel more confident in being successful? 100 of them would say Vrabel. P.S. Was Vrabel saying that he doesn't think May would be a good RPO quarterback, or do you think he was just giving an example of how you choose offensive philosophy?
Example, yeah.
But that did occur to me at the time.
I would love to. I was that's another time I thought of you during the press conference. You wipe those words out of your mouth.
1 second. Along with the fullback, we need the RPOs.
Jake, I would like to do that experiment. Can we somehow get 10 people who've never seen a football game and show them both press conferences and ask them which one they would rather root for?
Be a good
How can we do
experiment.
Call my mother.
Yeah.
Controlled experiment.
It'd have to be people who know nothing about football.
Yeah, I know. That's that's the hard part.
Yeah. Well, then we'll do it with the media.
Snap.
I can't
Boom.
This guy.
Just kidding, everybody.
This guy.
Just kidding. I just want that. This for these guys.
Yeah.
The ball knowers.
Guys, yeah.
Fred, in addition to you thanking Patricia for his service to the Patriots, as stated by Vrabel today, did he say that? I don't think it was so outlandish for him to coach on the offensive side of the ball. Maybe Belichick wasn't crazy, like much of the media said. A football coach is a football coach. Did Vrabel say something about that?
No, and Vrabel wasn't the Browns' offensive coordinator this year.
Right.
And line coach.
It's not the same thing.
No one was. He got fired. But yes, your point stands.
Like it's just not. It's not. It's not even worth mentioning.
What he was talking about when he brought up tight ends and offensive line. I know you know this. I'm just explaining.
I know.
Yeah, is he was saying, well, if I was a defender and you did this, I would do that, right? And trying to go through the cat and mouse game of seeing it through the prism of an outside linebacker coming off the edge as a tackle. If you're gonna hit a punch here, then my hands are gonna go like that, and then how's your counter? So that's how you can kind of what's it called? Cross train, in that respect, right? But we're not coordinating the offense, right? He's not the one with the headset calling the plays.
Right.
He was just trying to help with some of the techniques and things.
No one
like
ever suggested that Matt Patricia should never be allowed to coach on the other side of the ball.
Right.
Forever. He's a defensive coach and that's all he ever does. No. If you wanted to even make him the offensive line coach.
Coordinator.
You just made a guy the offensive coordinator. That's not the same as trying to, broaden your horizons.
Connor and Gansett, with McCarthy out in Dallas, what would you say about the idea of Kellen Moore for OC?
Bill Belichick.
Kellen Moore's in Philadelphia.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
he's saying as the Cowboys head coach, I think.
No, he's talking about bringing him here, so he got it all
As an
mixed up.
offensive coordinator?
Yeah.
No.
Kellen Moore.
Kellen
What
Moore's,
is that? I don't understand what Mike McCarthy's
He thought that
ouster in
Kellen
Dallas.
Moore was in Dallas, so
Oh.
he got confused.
Okay.
He was confused.
I thought he was suggesting Kellen Moore as the McCarthy successor.
Possible. Definitely possible.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick.
Eric in Idaho.
Says Fred Kirsch.
Eric in Idaho, as many other Patriots fans, I was okay with either Vrabel or Johnson as the next head coach. However, I'm pretty surprised at how polarized people are about the decision. As long as we have an above-average coaching, Drake May is the reason we will either be a contender or not. A great quarterback means much more than the head coach. Lastly, would Evan feel better about Vrabel hire if he started wearing tight pants?
Has this been a polarizing choice?
I don't think
I
so.
don't think so. I think
I
most
wouldn't
people
call it
like,
that.
I kind of wanted Johnson, but I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
I think most people are like, I want Vrabel,
Yeah.
and
No, no,
I would settle
mean-
for Johnson.
I mean, of the people who wanted Johnson, most of them are saying, I'm fine with this.
Yeah.
There was Patriots Twitter, which admittedly
Patriots Twitter on Sunday was full pants off.
Admittedly, skews a little bit younger at times. Was definitely with the let's hire the rising star offensive coordinator to give him to Drake May and have that whole thing. And I'm still there. I still have concerns about how it works with Drake May and the offense and all that kind of stuff. But I think he kind of the comment that he made about helping Drake May manage the game and the situational awareness and that whole aspect, I thought was soothing to me. I was like, okay, I understand where he's coming from because he was a really good at that in Tennessee as a head coach of this is a situation, this is the score, we need to, we're in the 4-minute offense. This is what we need you to do.
Identify
Right.
the goal.
Right.
Of the situation. Whatever, it's 4 minutes, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Identify the goal. This is the best way to get there.
Right. And I feel like that element of it is sort of the final hurdle for Drake to start winning games in the league. Not just starting to look good in games, because he's already doing that, but to actually win games in the league. It's the little things that, they were able to do with Brady for so many years where they were just better in that situational element. I think Jaden Daniels is really good in those situational elements and late in games and fourth quarters and close games late. His numbers are unreal in those situations this year, and that's why they flipped it around there in Washington.
A couple people are saying the Patriots are stuck in the past with this hire. Do you agree?
No.
Could be. I think that's the part of me that was sort of questioning why they didn't talk to more people was that.
Yep.
They look like they were sort of stuck on something that they knew. Again, I don't think there's anything wrong with Mike Vrabel. You guys see how much I like him.
Yeah.
I mean, when he came in here, you could see that I genuinely like Mike Vrabel.
Yeah.
So I have no problem with the the hire, but I do understand why some people would say they're stuck in the past.
Yvonne in Toronto, how do you see Mike Vrabel's culture resonate in the locker room? This year, some players seem to accept substandard plays and attitudes. Deuce would mention guys saying my bad and kind of laugh it off. Some players missing curfew, etc. Do you see him cutting players who won't measure up to his standards? This younger generation may not appeal to the toughness and discipline of the new coach. I certainly hope to see personal accountability and self-discipline, the team's foundation. No more walk it back Mondays. Would love to know your thoughts.
Yeah, I just struggle with, like, you know, too many players are soft now, and you can't be hard on them, and they just want to have fun. Like, I don't buy into that. I think you can hold guys accountable and be tough on them without being a giant a-hole who just seems like you're disconnected and you're just forcing them to do stuff that they don't understand why. There's ways to do it now, but I refuse to believe that hard coaching can't exist anymore. I don't believe it.
Yeah, I do wonder about some of the guys last year that weren't exactly sending the best messages and weren't exactly going about things the best way. How many of those guys are going to be on this team next year? I do wonder about that.
I mean, I wonder about how many of those guys are going to be good on the stand-up in front of everybody and, hey, Kendrick Bourne, what's your depth here on this 3rd and 12? 10? No. 12.
I do think there's going to be
that needs to be done. So
there's a chance that there's some guys that not a lot of people are expecting to be gone that will be gone.
Yep.
Agreed.
Yep. We'll do a couple more calls and then we'll wrap it up. We'll be back tomorrow at our usual time at noon. So a lot more calls and emails tomorrow, and we'll talk about the weekend's games. I called it mild card weekend. I wasn't that impressed.
I just thought it was boring.
Let's go to Brian in Massachusetts somewhere. What's up, Brian?
Hey, what's up?
Hey. Now you talk.
Yep. Hey, what's up? How
Hey.
you guys are doing there?
Good.
Okay. All right, we'll go to the next call. We'll go to you had your chance. Boston Cream. What's up, Boston?
You did give him 2 chances.
It's fair. It's fair.
Listen, guys, it feels like a new era. Fred, I need you to pull up your boss man shorts, storm up to the Kraft office. We need new jerseys. Let's get this stench off of us. Look good, play good.
Okay. Is that it?
Also, one last thing.
Yeah.
There's a trend here. Gerard Mayo played for the Patriots 10 years ago. Mike Vrabel played for the Patriots 20 years ago. If this doesn't work out, Paul, Drew Bledsoe played 30 years ago.
There you go. Okay. Oh, Vincent
Bye,
Brisby.
guys. Love you.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Boston Cream.
My boy Drew doesn't need to be dabbling in coaching. He's very content in
no
his
interest.
post-playing career.
No interest. All right. That's going to be it for this edition of an emergency podcast, the hiring of Mike Vrabel. If you missed it, the press conference will be up on is on Patriots.com probably as we speak, as well as other places that the Patriots control. So you can watch that. We will be back at noon. Very excited. Mike Vrabel, let's get to work.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
The world's original podcast.